All right, we ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is Russell Davenport. I'm the acting chairman of the Town of Winchester Inlands, Wetlands, and Watercourses Commission. This is a Zoom meeting, October 7th, 2020, and it is a special meeting. I'd like to start with a roll call here. Rick Nolet is absent and excused. Christine Hunter.
Here.
Andrea Kowicki.
Present.
She's here. Marianne Marino.
Present.
Jackie Mulvey.
Present.
Steve Molinelli.
Present.
Kurt Timoney.
Present.
Very good. We've got a full house then here. Next, I'd like to look at the approval of minutes. Do we have any modifications to our minutes from the last meeting? No, hearing none. We'll move on to, actually, before we move on to our item number 4, our public hearing, I would like to let everybody in the audience know we need to cap this meeting at 10 o'clock. That gives us 3 hours. We're going to try to move everything through. We will not take anything new after 10, but if we spill over, we'll continue to talk about whatever item we were on, but we will not start new items after that. Thank you very much.
Do I need to make a motion to approve the meetings?
Minutes.
Minute
Yes,
meeting?
I think we do.
I make that motion?
Second.
Pam, we good there?
Yeah, sure.
Mary Ann, you have a question?
No.
Oh, sorry. It's been a long day.
Favor.
Andrea does.
Aye.
No, all in favor.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right, I'd like to move on right to item number 4, which is our public hearing.
right.
This is for application IWWC 20-06. The owner is Paul Marino for 680 East Wakefield Boulevard for a boat lift and littoral boundary. I believe Paul is here to.
I am here.
Yeah, let me read the legal notice into the record. Legal notice, Winchester Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission notification of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Winchester Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission will hold a public hearing at a special meeting on Wednesday, October 7th, 2020 at 7 p.m. to be held remotely via Zoom to act on the following applications. 1, IWWC number 2006, applicant owner Paul J. Marino, location 680 East Wakefield Boulevard, proposal boat lift within Littoral.
We get the message.
And number 2, IWW's. What's that?
Paul, Pam, I think we lost you at the end there a little bit, but I think we got through the main part of it.
Your
Yeah.
Wi-Fi is terrible.
Just broke up a little, that's all.
But I think we got through what we needed to there, and
I'm gonna recuse myself now.
okay.
Well, let me just get for the record that,
What is the proposal again?
This is
hold on one second. Yeah, let me,
Oh, we're having a
boat
little
lift
bit of
within the
technical
littoral
difficulties
boundary.
here.
Paul, I don't think
That is-
have you sent them the certificate of mailings? Because if not, you'll have to get them to me tomorrow morning.
I thought I sent them in to you, but if not, I'm actually out of town until Friday afternoon, so I can get them to you then if that's okay.
Or, yep, okay. Just for the record, so we'll need those.
I'm coming, yeah, okay.
This is 2006, right?
Yes.
Yes, Jackie, it is.
Doesn't say anything about a boat lift.
Mine does. Proposal boat lift with littoral boundary. On the
Mine-
special,
Add 6 inches granite to lake retaining wall, add riparian.
You might
gar-
be looking at an old agenda, Jackie. Are you looking at October 7th?
Yeah, yes.
We took care of my granite wall and all that at the last meeting. This is the second phase of my project, or the part of the phase of the project that happened after I started the first phase, as Pam will testify.
So
Jackie,
Paul,
look
I'm
at
gonna make,
this.
The packet I have. The packet I have doesn't have that application.
it's the balance of the application that he's had from some couple months ago. So hopefully you had approved part of it at the last meeting, if you'll recall, and this portion of the application had to go to public hearing because it's what the ordinance calls for. So I think that he's prepared to walk through it. Paul, I've made you co-host if you want to walk through it for the commission again.
Sure,
Refresh
thank
your
you.
memory.
Yep. So let's see, I'm gonna, I will put up here the drawing that's up in the meeting documents right now. This is a sketch of what's currently existing. And as you may remember, we talked about the yard work, and as part of that, the dock and boat lift came into discussion because I wanted to get approval on those. So just as a quick background, the current dock is situated, as you can see, where I'm pointing with the arrow, and the boat lift is here. The boat lift is currently 5 feet from this neighbor's dock. And you also will probably remember that I had the issue with the total coverage, and I have made an agreement to absorb this 5 feet over here. So tonight we're talking about what the project is going to, what we're proposing. And this is a drawing that was done by John DeCara very recently. We are proposing to reverse the dock so that the L shape, if you will, now points in the other direction, which would then allow me to move the lift to the other side, giving me 11 feet over on this side, including the 5 feet that I've essentially leased from the neighbor. But we are within the littoral requirements for the dock to the line over here of 5.5 feet. So we're asking for this 5 feet or 5.5 feet within the littoral boundaries to be approved. I can show you to potentially just give you an idea of what the current area looks like. And I've got all these, let me move the Zoom ones out of the way. Okay. So this is just a look of sort of the whole or part of the frontage. This is from about where my arrow is here to the wall is that 5 foot section. And in fact, oops, sorry about that. Come on. Okay. Now I'm having technical difficulties. This is another view. I'm sorry, give me 1 second. My apologies. I had it all queued up, ready to show you. Okay. And nothing's cooperating right now. Okay. And this is I don't know, these photos are not cooperating here. Okay, this is another view. This is the dock. When we reverse the dock, we would be within the 5.5 feet in this area. And what I've done on this photo is I'm standing directly on the property line, looking out. As you can see, the neighbor's dock is, photo's blued out on us again here. Okay, as you can see, the neighbor's dock is literally on the line, been that way for 40 some odd years and is grandfathered in from what I understand. So with that, I mean, if he was within his 10 feet, we wouldn't be quite as on top of each other and with this dock proposal as we would be. And this is looking from my other property line out that direction. And And as you can see, there's going to be plenty of room here for the boat lift on this side. This is standing within in the 5-foot section that I've leased, again, kind of looking over at the dock. So not sure if those photos are helpful for you or not, but at least they'll give you some idea of what the waterfront area looks like. I have in this, in the meeting documents, we have a email that came from the neighbor on the side that will have the 5.5-foot littoral issue. And he has voiced support for that, and that there's not he doesn't have an issue with it, as you can see by this email that was sent to Pam this week. So that's kind of a quick recap of the proposal. I showed you all this picture. Unfortunately, it's tilted, but this is looking up from the dock and again towards that 5-foot section that I have secured from the neighbor. So if you have any questions at this moment.
So Paul, to clarify, you did secure a lease with the neighbor? You're doing a lease of the land?
We have it, yeah, we have a, in fact, I can pull that up. That's also in the documents. And this was the agreement that Pam ran by the town attorney, and the town attorney has approved this for the purposes that we're doing it for.
Okay.
And I think you all have a copy of this agreement, I believe.
And what is the status of that if the neighbor were to sell his property next year?
He would then, if he were indeed to do that, then he has the right to void this agreement. And in that case, I would have to, my other option for this was to get within the requirements without that agreement, is I'd have to lose 2 feet of the 10-foot width of the dock to get within the requirements. The agreement is allowing me to preserve the 10-foot width. And if any of you have tried to put more than 2 lounge chairs on a 10-by-10 platform, it doesn't leave you a lot of room. So I'm really trying to maintain that 2 feet. But in the event that he was to sell, which he has no intention of, actually what I should say is this: the 5 feet is attached to a house that's across the street, which I have first right of refusal to buy should he sell.
Okay.
That probably even clarifies it easier.
Yes.
I have a question. Can we approve 5 feet from the littoral boundary?
Yes. That's why the public hearing. You can after a public hearing, according to the dock and mooring ordinance.
Regulations.
No, what governs this activity is the dock and mooring ordinance and the regulations, why it'd be before you. But that was the reason why you had to have a public hearing. Do you want me to find the section in the ordinance that speaks to this? What's that?
I thought it had to be 10 feet from the littoral
It
boundary.
has to be 10 feet, but the commission may approve it. Want me to pull it up? Let me see.
And my understanding is we're not able to waive the total coverage issue. So in other words, if I wasn't able to secure the 5 feet, that wouldn't be able to be approved by the commission. However, the commission can, with a public hearing, grant this 5.5 feet exception.
And I guess putting this out a little bit to the commission, what would be what would be the compelling case to approve this with a public hearing? Would it be possibly that the neighbor's dock is already on the boundary and doesn't meet that, which potentially gives, that there's some problems there? I'm not sure what would be the compelling issue with driving to change the to allow that at 5 feet in this case. I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't do it. I'm just saying what are some other people's thoughts on this?
Well,
And Pam, this is the ordinance we're looking at, or?
Yes. So it's E.
And what page is that on?
That's not it.
3 of 9.
I'm sorry, 4, go to page 4.
Moved.
Oh, I thought I saw E there. I was starting to read it, but
No, it's 5, E. E5.
I thought I saw 3 too, so.
Where is it, Sam?
It's E, but you want to look at the second page, or
Page-
the following page, page 4 of 10,
Page 4 of 10, and where is it?
the top.
so Pam, number 5 has been met. Does that make sense? Do you understand that question? Has number 5 been, item 5 been met that?
Yes,
the
that's,
applicant-
yeah, that's what you have to do whenever there's a public hearing.
Right. But did he make, and then if he wanted, he's not the same neighbor that mentioned that everything, that it was okay. We haven't heard from this neighbor, right?
The neighbor that
Well,
has,
because the lease agreement with one, I mean, Paul, if you want to speak to it, you have a lease agreement with one and, you know, an email from the other.
the email is from the neighbor that would have the 5.5 feet
Right.
littoral, and he said he's okay with it. And, you know, Pam, I guess I didn't drop it off because there's all the registered mail things.
All right,
I just
yeah,
found
you
it.
can give that, yep.
Okay.
You know, and when I look at that and it looks at, does it kind of go with the harmony and the general purpose of the ordinance? If you look at those pictures that I showed you, we are in a rather narrow part of the lake, or we all have fairly narrow waterfronts. And everybody, or not everybody, but there's a lot that are close to these littoral boundaries. Again, you've seen where his dock is located because he doesn't have much room on the other side.
Okay, no, I understand. I think that answers most of my questions.
Pam,
Yes,
on page 2 of 9 of the ordinance, section C, the last section on the bottom, seems to indicate that the commission can take relevant facts in making a decision into consideration, and it includes the littoral rights of adjacent properties.
yeah,
So that speaks to the fact that we can rule on it and make a decision one way or the other. We're not obligated to uphold the littoral boundaries just because it's part of the ordinance. I think that's what it says.
right. It was always that if you had a, right, correct. These are the factors that you should consider.
So I think we should make a motion to move forward and approve. He did.
Well, first you want to open the public hearing for public comment, and then the hearing has to be closed, so, let's just, I'm gonna
You don't
stop
want to,
share.
before we move on, I mean, one of the issues I in favor of changing that littoral boundary, or allowing that variance, is that the neighbors, you have something that's grandfathered in on the other side that is really very close to the line. So in my mind, he's got a situation that, nothing can change, but that situation isn't in his favor. He didn't have anything to do with that, but it is
Russ,
closer
no.
than it should be.
Russ, but the littoral line is the littoral line, regardless
Oh, I see
where
what you mean, regardless of his dock. That's
his
correct.
dock
I
is,
understand.
his dock is in its own way a violation. And should he want to do something to the dock, he would have to come into compliance.
Okay,
Exactly.
no, I see what you mean.
So
I
the line
understand that now.
still is the line.
Mhm. And the applicant has a lease with the neighboring property and a first right of refusal. So it looks like everything's in order. Plus, the town lawyer reviewed that lease, correct, Pam?
Yeah, and you just, during the public hearing, if you're gonna condition, any kind of conditions that you may entertain, you wanna talk about it now. And I neglected to include in the draft motion a condition that, something to do with the lease, whatever, however you wanna phrase it, if you're inclined to approve that, that the permit is only valid, for the duration of the lease.
And also, our attorney in the minutes from the September 16th meeting says that, based on the lease agreement, provided that a condition of approval include recording of the lease on
Yes.
land records.
Mhm.
So the town has to be informed officially of this lease.
Paul, is that something you can do?
He has to do.
I-
He
It
has
has
to
to
do
do
it.
it.
I don't know what it takes to record it with the town, but I'm sure we can figure that out.
Well, that would be a condition that the lawyer is insisting on.
Yeah, again, Pam, do you know how we record it with the
Yeah,
town?
it was with the
The
town
clerk.
clerk. Yeah,
Okay.
I can help you with it. Yep.
So the answer is yes, I'm happy to record that with the town.
I think really the question on this, I feel like we've gotten through the littoral boundary on the one side with the neighbors because we had that. It's really the variance of the 4.5 feet on the other side of the property, correct?
It's the
That's-
five, yeah, the 5.5
That's really
feet,
what we're talking about at this point.
correct.
We've had a public hearing for this. Have we heard, the neighbor seems to be fine with that according to that email, but really the question is, what is the compelling argument for making that change?
The neighbor and I actually believe that it's an improvement by relocating my boat lift to the other side. Right now, we have two boat lifts that are fairly close to each other and they both have canopies. So separating them is going to provide some relief and having them next to each other. So he thinks it's an improvement, which I agree with.
The one factor would be the separation or the distancing between two boat lifts, essentially.
Correct. Yeah. If you looked at the pictures that I sent you, as you can see next to his dock on the line there, he's got a lift also. So it's all close.
Are there any other conditions that anyone here sees or can think of, or you, Paul, that might come into play with this, with essentially with a variance, or some we have to address maybe reasons for not having a variance also? I mean, that, right? That's
Well,
what the commission.
you don't really have to have a 10-foot platform at the end of the dock. I mean, that is not a requirement.
No, it's not. Absolutely. I mean, obviously we can reconfigure the dock as needed, but I'm requesting to allow it to stay the size that it is, so that we can enjoy the dock as we have.
Are there any other thoughts that some of the other commissioners have in regard to this? It says regard to a variance, or Pam, other factors here that we're not seeing?
No, but you may want to open the public hearing and just let them weigh in case that something's brought up with that.
Just before we do that, Paul, could you bring up the picture with the dock, from the land?
Yes.
Where the old picture, where the dock is on the right side? Actually, not that, the one with the DeCara's map.
Yes.
Thank you. Because my sense is, just to address Jackie's concern, even if the 10-foot dock were made back to just a straight walkway straight out, he probably still would be to some extent in the littoral boundary, not as much, but to some extent he still would be.
It would
No,
be close, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
this section is about 5 feet, so I would still be half a foot, I suppose, or a little bit, give or take, within the 10.
Yeah, well, yeah. And the neighbor is giving you permission to be there, basically.
Correct.
And
Again,
his
he
boat
thinks an
lift-
improvement because right now the boat lift is over here and we're moving it to the other side.
Right,
Where
and
there's
his boat
more
lift
room.
his boat lift, looking at the picture, is on the upside of the dock, right where
This
you are
boat
now.
lift is right where I'm kind of have the arrow circling there, yeah. And you
Okay,
can see it. You can certainly see it in this
Yeah.
photo. He's got his dock on there now for the winter, but
oh, that's interesting.
because interestingly enough, his float goes out, and when his square is on, he goes out way past my dock. But when his square is on, he's over the littoral boundary, and that's just the way it's been for 40 years. What you don't see in John's drawing is when his float is on, and again, it's way out here. His float
Yeah,
actually probably comes over to about here. So,
Which would
littoral
never be
bound-
allowed.
Yeah,
but again, these are, I understand previous to
Yeah.
me, this was addressed prior to my buying the property with Mike, the owner, and they fought this for quite some time. Pam, you probably know the history, but he was able to keep his dock because he had pictures from the 1970s that it was there.
I think he had recently even replaced it
He did.
and received approval, and I think that was when Steve Sedlowski was here.
Yep. But we coexist in this situation quite well. I mean,
that isn't what it's about.
We have, I'd like to open this up to any neighbors or the public here as part of this meeting. Do we have any further questions from any of the other commissioners? Okay. Well, that said, I'd like to open this up to, this public hearing open up to anybody that's here, or any of the neighbors or anybody else concerned about this project or littoral boundary issues.
Everyone has the ability to unmute themselves, so if you're here, you might want to just speak up. Give them a couple seconds. No, I don't think so.
I'd like to make a motion that we close this public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Got it. So what I would recommend is that you open the next public hearing. There's no one here. Just, there's really no discussion. Just take, if anyone from the public is here to speak, that came to the meeting to speak on that, allow them to speak, and then continue the public hearing to, if you want to continue into your October 21st meeting. For the record, Marian Marino is back, has rejoined the meeting. So Russ, if you'll just open that public hearing, like I said, and
Yes. I'd like to open our second public hearing. This is IWWC 20-32. The application is Mark and Muriel Mendel, 410 East Wakefield Boulevard. This is the installation of a goose barrier fence on existing seawall, modify existing boat ramp to create a 12 by 12 seating area with steps using existing stone. That said, is there anybody here in the public that would like to comment or have any questions about this project? A couple more minutes. Do we have anybody, Pam, that you're aware of?
I don't think so. Everyone again has the ability to unmute themselves. And I
Okay.
don't think there's anyone here.
Pam, are you going to read this into the public record as part of the minutes?
I did.
I don't
didn't
know. I don't know what.
I don't know how much I froze up before. But it was published along with the last legal notice. It was just in case, for the record, that was published in the Republican American on September 23rd and September 30th. At this hearing, interested persons may appear and be heard, and written communications will be received. Copies of the above application are on file for public inspection in the Planning and Community Development Office. The office has been open. It's never been closed since COVID, and I have received no communications on this. I don't have the certificate of mailings on these either. So again, this applicant will need to provide them. Just when you make sure that you, for the record, when you continue this, you specify the date and time for the public hearing.
Okay. That said, I'd like to make a motion to continue this public hearing to the October 21st meeting at 7 a.m.
PM.
PM.
p.m. Do I have a second?
Second.
And all those in favor?
If it's PM.
Yeah. I'd love to do 7.
Okay, thank you. Got it. Unanimous.
Okay, that said, moving right along to item number 5 is we're starting old business, and that is again IWWC 20-06 Paul Marino 680 East Wakefield Boulevard, boat lift within littoral boundary.
And just for the record, is anyone recusing themselves?
Mary Ann, speak up.
I'm not recusing myself. Do I need to recuse myself?
This is Paul's application.
Oh, sorry. I thought we moved on. Sorry, I'm
We
recusing.
did, but we're back.
One was a public hearing.
Okay. So Marianne has recused herself. So then it looks like you had 2 conditions that you had talked about in the public hearing. So when you make your motion, if you, whoever is inclined, make it in the affirmative and then discuss it. But standard 1 through 12 conditions. And then the number 13 was recording lease, record the lease with property, with a budding property owner to be recorded on the land records. And,
Yep.
And then number 14 would be permit expires should the something if the permit expires, permit valid for the duration of the lease.
Say that again.
Permit valid for the duration of the lease. And then if there's any bond to be considered, do you want to consider that prior to voting on the motion?
We imposed the bond for the work
Yes.
done on the property itself. So
Yes.
there's, to me, there would be no bond necessary for just moving the boat lift and switching the dock over. Yes, no?
Yes, I believe we did have a bond for some other work there, correct? So
Yeah.
this wouldn't need to be bonded.
I agree.
You know, that said, I mean, we've discussed this some, you know, if there's more to discuss here, obviously it's a little bit of a challenge. We're talking about, you know, a variance on a littoral boundary. I don't know if there's any other, if people see some other solutions here. Steve, you looked like you were about ready to say something, but
No,
maybe not.
there is no other solution other than by denying the applicant, and then he has to just move everything in and not have a boat lift, or have a boat lift and have a walkway without it, without a platform on the outside. But he's got approval and permission from the neighbor to, you know, to violate the littoral boundary issue, which the neighbor himself is violating. And, you know, he doesn't own the 5 feet, but he has access to the 5 feet by legal terms. And that's somewhat binding based on our lawyer's review of that document. So, it's either yes or no. It's, either we give it to him or we deny him. If we give it to him, he gets what he's asking for. If we deny it, then we're throwing out whatever, we've just spent time talking about.
Yeah, I mean, part of me doesn't see, I don't see a great, some, in a sense, harm with the proposal here. But I mean, I'm only one person on this commission here.
Well, in the past, because we give consideration and ultimately potentially approval to this, doesn't mean that there's precedent set for anybody else who wants to do something similar, that if there's an automatic approval that comes because of 680 East Wakefield Boulevard.
Right.
Everything stands on its own merit.
Yeah.
So having said that, we're not obligated, we're not locking ourselves in. And, if tomorrow morning somebody else puts in and uses the same rationale, we make a determination based on how we feel about that property, period.
All right, well, that said, I'd like to make a motion to approve application 20-26, boat lift with littoral boundaries, conditions 1 through, I guess just with the conditions being, there is no cast erosion sedimentation bond. Item number 14 would be, a requirement would be the lease to be recorded on the town of Winchester land record. And item 15, that the permit is only valid for the duration of the lease with that would be recorded with that neighbor.
I'll second it.
Frank, all those in favor of this, raise your hand.
Kurt, raise your hand. Kurt.
Okay. How'd you know he's gonna raise his hand?
I just have this telepathy.
Okay.
Any opposed?
And those opposed, I'm sorry.
Jackie, okay,
And any abstain?
okay, thank you.
All right, Paul, conditions, do I need to read the conditions in this?
No,
We did.
no, you did.
Okay, so that is.
So Mary Ann can come back.
So Marion, you can come back.
Thank you. I just have one quick question, and thank you all to everybody for helping through this project. Pam, as I read this, and I don't want to open up a can of worms here, but as I read as I read what you read into the record, I read the agenda. Actually, it says the boat lifts within Littoral. I think it's technically the dock is what's in Littoral. Do we need to just amend that wording so that we don't have an issue there?
Yeah. Why don't you take a show of hands, Russ, to modify that like that?
Go ahead and show of hands for the modification of that
Yeah,
as discussed.
okay, all right.
Yeah, I just don't want to have
Yep.
anything come up later.
All right.
But thank
Good
you,
night,
everyone.
Paul.
I
See you, Paul.
appreciate your help.
Bye, Paul.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
So the next application was being continued because of the public hearing was continued. 608 East Wakefield Boulevard is also looking to continue. He's still working on getting a survey with an as-built.
What
So-
item number is that, Pam?
That was 2025. So if you want to, if someone will make a motion on that one.
I'll make a motion.
We've skipped over to item number 2025, and that requires a.
No, that was, he's still working on open items. So if you want to, just,
Continuance, right?
yes, yep. So is that you, Christine? You made a motion? to
Yeah, I
continue?
started.
Yep.
I make a motion that we continue IWWC 20-25 for Matthew Clausen on John Flaherty and Colleen Burke's property at 608 East Wakefield Boulevard as they prepare information for installing a new 8x40 cantilever dock in the same location as the previous dock.
Second.
Pam, that said, because we continued and voted to continue IWWC 2032, that is now not on the items of old business that moves forward with that. Do we need to note that in any way?
No,
Item B.
it's old business anyways. No, it's
Okay.
not. Yep.
Okay, so we can then move on to.
You just got to vote on this motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Got it. Unanimous. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. That said, we're gonna move on to item D, which is under old business, which is IWWC 20-34. This is David Wilson is the applicant. The location is 622 East Wakefield Boulevard. And we have repairs to stone wall and pier. And I'm sure David is here. Hello.
I am here.
Please, I think you let us know where you're at.
This is the third time that we've talked about this. I think that we had this, the third meeting in order for folks to go out and see the property.
And some of the commissioners have come out, correct?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And
So shall I bring up pictures to remind people?
yes, if you could, it would help me. I think I do remember the property, so it says, but if you could bring up the pictures, that would be great. So everybody's on the same page here.
Pam, can you give me sharing? Pam, can you allow me to share, please?
You're muted, Pam.
Pam muted.
Great.
Yeah, I think she knows she's muted. There's an issue.
Okay, here we go.
Got that?
Yes.
Okay.
So repairs to seawall. My front lawn is disappearing into the lake. Most of the seawall is going to be repointed. Other sections need to be rebuilt. So most folks have seen these pictures a couple times. What you see in this view is the section that is going to be rebuilt. The remainder of it will be repointed as necessary. The reason for the rebuild here is that the section that we're pointing at right now is leaning towards the lake, and there's concern that it's going to fall in. Can't just be repointed. And these sections just repointed and backfilled behind to replace the washout. In addition to that, the dock is sitting on a pier. The pier is crumbling away, allowing the dock to sink into the lake. After I took out the seasonal floating portion of the dock, it was pretty apparent that on the left side, when you're facing the lake, it is not, the dock is held up by two I-beams. And the left I-beam is not sitting on a pier at all. It is very bouncy. The right-hand side appears to be still on stone. So the idea is to replace the stone that has crumbled away and repoint as necessary for the pier. This is another view of the dock showing how it is leaning into the water, roughly 8 inches or so.
Steve, you have been to this site, correct?
Correct.
And really this came down to an issue with that this is a non-conforming dock or pier, and would the repair of this to secure it really be permitted, that otherwise are right? That's what we're talking about at this point, correct?
That's what the applicant has indicated. Yeah.
It is a repair to the dock. I'm not changing it in any way. Same with the seawall. We're repairing it to its original condition.
When I looked at the dock, Dave, it appears as though there's an I-beam going across the dock from left to right, forming a T. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And the I-beam is sagging, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, there are two I-beams that are down the central portion of the dock, extending out from the shore. And then there are I-beams that go across in multiple places. It is quite massive.
We saw it.
Any of the other commissioners have any thoughts about this?
Well, I've been on the property.
Okay, Jackie.
I see no problem with repairing his holder underneath water.
The I-beam.
Yeah, no, not the I-beam, but
The pier.
stone pier.
Here.
Okay. Which is securing the I-beam, which is there.
Right. It's all there. He's repairing it.
Yeah, I just, the dock is so out of compliance that I would like to recommend that during the repair, the dock is brought into compliance by removing those side dock pieces and bringing the length of the dock into compliance. Since it's going to be worked on, I think it's reasonable to ask that those efforts be made to bring it into compliance or much closer to being in compliance with the elements that you have right now that you're working with.
This is the debate
That's-
we had last time.
What's that?
That was discussed
Yes.
and on both of the calls that I've been on with you guys. I have neither the funds nor the time left in the season to do that. There's been a lot of talk about grandfathering, and you guys don't like the term, but the fact is I bought the property with a dock that's been there for 20, 30 years. I don't particularly like the dock, but I do not have the funds to replace it at this time, and I don't believe that I can make the changes that you are suggesting and maintain its structural stability.
Yeah, my understanding of grandfathering is if you're not touching the structure, it stays the same and nothing's being changed to it.
And I'm not, I'm just repairing it.
Christine,
is-
yeah, yes.
I think if the applicant were to remove 10 of the boards, 5 of the boards on the surface of the dock, we probably wouldn't have any issue with it at all because he's clearly repairing, 5%, 10% of the dock because the splinters are coming up or nails are popped or whatever. In this case, the dock is remaining the same, but the structure holding it, which based on his description and when I went out to look at it, it's not sagging that much. He's not going to build half of that pier back up. It appears as though it's down maybe, I don't know, 6, 8, 10, 12 inches at most, if that much. And it's just an effort to level the dock and make it more stable because of the disrepair of the pier supporting it. So, it is clearly only and limited to a repair.
Well, it's the same thing, like last meeting, you had an application where it was lake well repair, and you talked about that 75-foot dock that you found objectionable. He is doing some type of work to all of it. There's also a walkway that doesn't comply with your dock and mooring ordinance. He's got that this is the time, but it's up to the commission to gain compliance if you're so inclined to do so.
Yeah, it's the walkway that when I said removing the side areas, I was suggesting there's sort of flanges on either side of the walkway there that extend the width of the walkway.
No, and there's another one. There's another walkway. He has a second walkway.
And that's the length problem, right? So I'm suggesting.
No, I'm talking like a second dock for his boat lift. Doesn't meet the ordinance. You're only allowed, if you have more than 150 feet of lake frontage, you're allowed a second dock. You're allowed a walkway, up to a 3-foot walkway as a second,
Anything done to that, correct?
Well, he's looking for lake wall repair, so.
Yeah, but he's not doing anything to that. He hasn't asked for anything to be done to that walkway, right?
It's up to you as a commissioner.
Well, no, he's at the walk. I'm sorry, Pam. Can we see, is there another picture that shows the walkway, or are we still talking about the two wings essentially off the main wall?
I can pull, it's sketched in by hand, but what he sketched in by hand does match what we have on file as as registered. It was, give me a second, I'll pull it up to show you the site plan that I'm talking about. It doesn't even show up, but it's in your plans. He has a second walkway over an area, and this area right here is where a boat lift is, and then a 4-foot walkway that goes out. And you'll remember with Beth Papermaster, she had the same situation. She had purchased, no, I think she had added it, but it was a 4-foot walkway, and the ordinance only allows for a 3-foot walkway. It was corrected as part of, her application.
There's a significant difference between adding something and not doing anything to it at all.
It was the same situation that you had with her.
You're saying it was the same situation that whether to reinforce, essentially to reinforce something that was non-conforming.
Yeah. But
He didn't ask to do anything to that, correct? That is an application.
It's up to the commission to gain compliance as you see fit with the dock and mooring ordinance.
Right, we had this argument last month.
We go from property to property. I wish we could, but we can't go from property to property every time somebody puts an application in to.
When they come before you, That is the time. What was agreed upon and where that grandfathering has come to be an understanding is that there would be no enforcement until the time that they're before you, and it's been 25 years, that you can seek compliance or you can, not.
So before we argue about the issue of grandfathering and such, I would like to point out a couple things. Yes, there is a 4-foot walkway on the boat lift. In the third bay, the water is about 6.5 feet deep at the end of this walkway. And the walkway is about 1.5 feet above the water. So we've got 7.5 feet above ground level. The walkway as it stands, at 4 feet wide, is already wobbly. A 3-foot walkway is, in my view, dangerous. And this is a Shoremaster product. Shoremaster does not even offer a 3-foot walkway. They start at 4 feet. And there's a good engineering reason for that. A 3-foot walkway, especially at 7.5 feet tall, is unstable and dangerous. And particularly when you're talking about third bay conditions where it's extremely wavy.
Is that why it has the wings on? Is that what you're saying? It was to make it more stable? I'm not sure if I'm understanding this correctly.
Weights?
We're just talking about the 3-foot walkway that comes out over the water, correct?
So this is a standard walkway adjacent to a boat lift.
Okay.
It has not been discussed at all in the past 2 meetings that I've attended. This is a new issue that's been brought up. I don't understand why it's been brought up, but it has. And I am concerned from an engineering point of view and a safety point of view that going to a 3-foot walkway it's dangerous. I don't think it's appropriate in an 18-foot long walkway, 7.5 feet above ground level, to have a 3-foot. Well, I can't bring my 82-year-old mother out there. It's too narrow.
Well, that's, I have pulled up on the screen, a question that was put before Nelligan, Attorney Kevin Nelligan on July 21st for this exact matter. So, and I only bring this up now is because, you're talking about trying to gain compliance, I understand there's a difference of opinions in it. And again, it's up to the commission.
One thing that was brought up on your September 16th call was having a discussion with the town attorney to see if it was actually legally within the commission's right to request a change to the property if the permit did not include anything to do with that change. Was that discussion with the town attorney ever?
It was the same situation in July. So there were 2 legal questions but let's let the commission, I feel I've shared with you what I can. It's really, any questions?
Also, I think, Mr. Wilson, we've all now, well, not all of us, but some of us have visited the site in the intervening meetings. So, we were able to see visibly what's on the property.
I think this commission has a broader responsibility, if that's the way I want to phrase it. And I don't know if I want to use that word, but if we're going to try and attempt to bring every property whose waterfront is in violation because of having been installed prior to the ordinance, then my sense is that anyone who comes before us for anything to do with repairing a non-compliant structure we're almost obligated to deny it and then insist that they come into compliance.
That is my understanding
I
too.
agree, yeah.
Right, but that's not necessarily the way this commission has behaved in the past. In the past, we've looked at the amount of repair that's being requested and determining whether it's really changing, doing a major renovation of it or a simple safety repair, or like I said, if a couple of nails are popped and you want to change a board. We've never asked for somebody to come into compliance. It's going to become a very aggressive battle that we're going to undertake if that's the position we're going to take on what I consider an insignificant and minor repair that he has an opportunity to do this year because of the deep drawdown, and probably in the future will not have an opportunity to do that. So,
Right, but you can't ask some of us, half of us are new commissioners, to comply with what you guys did 10 years ago.
I'm not asking anybody to do anything. I'm just putting my thoughts out there and telling you how I have behaved, and in previous applications, the commission has behaved in trying to sort of walk a tightrope between a repair and a replacement. And do we want to bring it into compliance because of a repair? Certainly a replacement, we insist on coming into compliance. But half the lake is out of compliance at this point, and it's a start if you want to start it. But again, it's something that, if we're going to be objective about this, then any and everybody that presents any kind of an argument will be denied because, look at the case we just heard before us with the Marino incident, where his neighbor's dock is out of compliance. We've allowed him not to be in compliance with the littoral boundary, technically on both sides. He's 5 foot short on the dock side, and he has a lease, which is the first time I've ever seen that come into play. He has a lease to be out of compliance or now in compliance on the other side, and he doesn't have the width of property. So, either we're hypocritical or we're, make a decision based on your values. But, either there's consistency or inconsistency.
I'm having a problem with, when you replace something structurally, that is different than replacing a board. Replacing a board, just popping on a board and putting another one in, that's a repair. But he's replacing the structural integrity of it, stating that it's going to stay for many more years to come.
Yeah, that's my position as well. It is, Stephen, I appreciate that you've been on the commission for a long time.
It has nothing to do with it. I'm just telling you how I feel.
Well, okay, fair enough. But, my point of view is that it's our job to, protect the safety of the lake, to bring, structures into compliance whenever possible in order to protect the integrity of the watershed. That's what we're here to do. This dock is pretty tremendously out of compliance. And I am with Christine that repair to it in its current form indicates that it's going to last a very long time. Now, perhaps, and Pam, I look to you for some guidance here, we could agree to this repair on the condition that this dock be brought into compliance within a certain time frame that's reasonable to ask for, given the expense associated with it. But I do think that we have to be serious about compliance issues.
David, is that something you can see in the future potentially as an option to move in a direction or bring it into compliance?
Yes, it is. It can't happen this year, and I believe that given the nature of the dock, it will need to happen at the next deep drawdown.
That's when?
5 years, probably.
5 years?
Probably.
I'm certainly, I am, I would like to, as much as possible, move things into compliance, or sometimes though, I like Mary Ann's idea of potentially, bringing something into, bringing into compliance in the future. I don't know if that's been done before. I've been on the commission long enough either to know that. I do believe there probably are some safety issues with leaving this the way it is potentially, although I didn't see it firsthand, so I apologize for that. Steve, do you think that there's, or actually both Steve and David, I mean, are there safety issues where it is now? Meaning that it can fall further?
Absolutely. In inspecting the dock actually this morning, it is apparent that one side of the dock, so there are two I-beams that extend out to the pier. One of those I-beams is not currently supported. So, and I suspect it will last a few years, but given the degradation that I've seen in the 3 years that I've lived at the lake and the tremendous increase in wave activity due to the popularity of wakeboarding, I don't think that either the pier or my seawall will last more than a couple of years in their current condition.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd like to see rebuild as we always discuss, the rebuilding of the seawall. We understood it was really always about the dock and this commission trying to move towards more and more compliance. That's what the regs were written for. And is that something we could put as a condition of the? I don't know how we enforce a condition that it would be that there'd be a condition of approval for the repair, that in a set amount of time there'd be a bringing the structure into compliance.
Yeah, you can condition your approval. Yep.
And
Okay.
Mr. Wilson, do you think that it is within your grasp financially to bring it into compliance during the next drawdown?
I believe so, though I have not gotten quotes on fancy docks, the cantilever docks. I suspect they are quite expensive.
Yeah, that's not your only option. I'll tell you. I mean, I have a good dock that wasn't terribly expensive. It just has to come out every winter, but it's an aluminum frame and it's reasonably priced.
Yeah.
But
You wouldn't have to necessarily replace it with something that was cantilever.
right,
I mean, that's a huge expense, a cantilever versus a standalone removable dock.
right.
So yes, I would say that within 5 years, I would be able to do that.
Okay.
Or I think that it's going to require the deep drawdown because there's a lot of work to be done to remove the existing pier, and the dock itself is a massive steel structure.
Are we kind of a little bit uncharted territory here with a requirement like this? Steve, you've been on the commission, and Jackie for quite a long time.
I don't know legally if we could, well, I guess to replace it, what we're asking is if he would commit to replacing it with a dock that was compliant. We can't say what kind of a dock, but I'm not sure that legally we can. I mean, that would be a legal requirement by being a condition. I mean, he has said he wants to do that anyway. He said that already, that he would like to replace it.
Right.
But
and he believes it will be feasible for him financially to do it by the next drawdown. So it seems to me like that's a reasonable compromise on both sides, right? We give him the opportunity to make the dock safe and shore it up in its current condition while he puts together a plan and a strategy and the, financial wherewithal to get the dock into compliance by the next drawdown.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay with me.
Or even maybe by the next drawdown, or if another issue should arise, if he needs to meet with us again for another reason,
Yeah, if the dock
or
falls
sooner.
further disrepair, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a good call out, Christine. And in terms of the walkway by the lift,
I'm very uncomfortable with that change.
yeah, sorry about that.
To this application, so I think we should leave that for another time.
He's not doing anything to it anyway, right?
Say that again?
Nothing's being done to the other walkway, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah, but I think insofar as there's a compliance issue, we would need that to be addressed at some point as well. And if we're saying right now that we need you to come into compliance with the dock either by the next drawdown or the next time it needs a repair, then I think that the walkway issue needs to be discussed at that time. And what that gives you time to do, Mr. Wilson, is the research to present us regarding the safety issues that are concerning you, which I think is fair.
Just to correct, there's no variance, like you wouldn't be able to approve it. You would have to, it's as if you're not sanctioning that walkway because you're not able to approve it.
Right, so then we'd have to just say, if he says there are safety issues with the 3 foot, then we'd have to have it removed.
Yeah, depending on it, yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a completely separate issue right at the moment, though.
I do too.
Yeah, okay, so I don't know how to, Pam, do we put that on the record now that that's an issue that needs to be addressed separately?
What's that, the walkway?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, that, and then don't forget, you haven't discussed, I did have the minutes pulled up. What are you doing with the riparian buffer from the patio? I think he had agreed at the September, but
That was in front of the wall he was repairing.
yeah, it was a problem that he inherited. But he communicated his willingness to install the buffer garden. And that was, if you'll recall, a 2009 after the fact patio application.
Right.
That was, discussed and reviewed and just never completed.
Yeah.
But David, that
Something
is,
that Mr. Wilson
you agreed
did.
to that, correct?
Yeah. So
David,
he
you
had
had agreed to do the riparian buffer in the front of the wall, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So I think
That's a condition then, right?
that would be a condition. So if we want to just review conditions, his approval is going to be valid through October 7th, 2025, which would be, you figure, late in the next deep drawdown plan. Anyone who's getting their approvals right now is kind of late. So would you be seeking, and if he were to come in, for anyone that's here tonight, if you come in to renew your application, you can conceivably get 10 years out of one application. So long as you come before this commission, before it expires, which is the 5-year mark, and seek another 5 years. So you could condition applicant to return before next deep drawdown with a proposal to have for dock to comply with the dock and mooring ordinance.
Right. But the riparian garden, we would want to go in at the, after the
That's
wall.
right. That's a
after the
separate
walls
condition. I just,
are- Yeah,
I just want to work out that condition if that's where y'all are at.
I am.
And
yeah,
then we won't talk about the walkway, because there's, that you can talk about that in 5 years. But then another condition, would be the riparian buffer. And just so that we understand it, because I don't have it proposed, is the commission looking for that riparian buffer to comply with that 2009 approval where it should be, on between the lawn and the patio, or do you want it along the wall? And what is the applicant agreeable to?
I thought we had discussed that it was going to be along the wall, which is what we've primarily done with these seawall rebuilds in the past.
Just making sure.
yeah,
Is that,
that's my understanding.
So the way that the previous owner dealt with this issue is that instead of putting in vegetation, a vegetative barrier, he put in a French drain. And the French drain, it's loose stone that is between the lawn and the patio. So what we had agreed to in the September 16th meeting was that I would remove that French drain and replace it with a vegetative barrier.
Yes,
And
that's
that's
correct.
what we called for in the 2009 permit.
Okay, so that's how the 2009 was worded, that the French drain would be removed. So if we had.
There wasn't a French drain at that point.
What's that?
replace
It was not-
existing French drain with vegetative buffer? Is that
Okay.
fair?
Okay.
And then you just want to consider a bond if you're so inclined prior to voting on the motion.
We
And then
did
we
have
can-
we do have we would need to do probably a $1,500 cash and erosion bond for all the work being done with removing the material. Stockpile using re-existing. I think that would cover it, correct?
Seems high, but
Seems high, okay. What do
maybe,
you recommend, Jackie?
how about 1,000?
All right, we could do it 1,000.
So do we have a motion?
Not yet.
Okay,
We have
I'm gonna put-
conditions, not a motion.
Clock is-
okay.
All right, so
I was gonna make a motion if we're ready.
go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve application 20-34 for repairs to stone wall and pier. Condition 15, or I'm sorry, a catch and erosion sedimentation bond of $1,000 under item 13. Under item 15, I'm going to try to word this correctly, that the owner would be required to bring the existing dock into compliance for October 7th, 2025.
Mhm.
And item 16, the owner would remove existing French drain in front of the seawall and create a riparian buffer based on the 2009 application approval. All those in favor?
You need a second.
I'm
Second.
sorry. Do I have a second?
Second,
That's Jackie.
Yeah,
I think everyone seconded it.
All right, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
All those opposed? And
Anyone
Abstain.
abstaining? Steve's abstaining.
all right, David, I think we've come to an agreement here after many lengthy conversations. Next thing to do would be to speak with Pam before you get any work started. And I think we're in pretty good shape here.
Very good. Thanks, folks. See you in
Good
5
night.
years.
Thank you.
Good luck.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Moving on to item E is IWWC 20-40. That's the applicant owner is Michael Gulowski. Sorry, I didn't pronounce that right, probably. 610 West Wakefield Boulevard. We're removing and replacing a seawall, remove and replace interior retaining wall, replace and relocate dock, reset boat lift. And Michael is here to answer some of our questions. How are you?
Very well. Thank you very much. It's Michael Gutowski for 610 West Wakefield Boulevard. My engineer is here this evening to speak to the details of the project, so he'll be able to answer many of your questions. So I will let Dave Batista from Leonard Engineering take over the floor.
Thank you, Michael. My name is Dave Batista. I'm a licensed professional engineer with Leonard Engineering. And I'd like to go through the application and the plans for you tonight so that you can understand what we're proposing. And I recognize that there are other applications. I'll try to move this along as quickly as possible, but I will spend all the time you need answering any questions. Pam, can I share some files?
I made you co-host.
Why
You
does
just have
everybody
to.
else have their camera off? You don't.
What?
Everybody else has their camera off, but you don't.
What?
There's like half of the people that have their camera off right now.
So Pam, can I go ahead?
Yes, yep,
Okay.
I made you co-host, so
Okay.
you just accept and then
All right. Can you still hear me?
we can hear you. Yep.
Okay. So this is a copy of the application.
One
And,
second, Dave, it's not showing up, so,
Okay.
so what you want to do is go to share screen.
All right.
It's, so on the bottom of your Zoom, hover around the bottom of your Zoom screen, and you'll see a green share screen.
Yeah, I clicked that and I
Okay.
have a window up.
Yep, and now click on the window that you want to open,
All right. Right there.
and then, yep, there we go.
Okay.
Yep, perfect.
We should have hard copies. Do some of the other members have, commissioners have hard copies of this? I do, but I have a full set of plans for this also. It may be helpful to look at those if you have them.
I do.
Yeah, were we given them last time?
Yes, you've had them for a while. Yep.
Okay, so I just wanted to show you this narrative that I put together on what we're proposing. I won't read it verbatim, but basically, Mr. Gutowski would like to reconstruct his seawalls along the lake. There is another site retaining wall just uphill from the seawall that he would like to rebuild. He'd like to replace his dock with a brand new dock and reset an existing boat lift. We'll get into all that detail. This particular property at 610 West Wakefield is located about 200 feet north of Forest Avenue. And it's on a very steep lot that drops down from the boulevard to the lake. There's about a 30-foot drop. So when you're standing on the road looking at the house, you're actually looking down at the house. It's a pretty steep site. And it's going to make construction very difficult. There's very little room to work here. So stockpiling is going to be a problem during construction. He's going to have to use his parking spaces and whatnot for, his contractor's going to have to use it for stockpiles and staging of materials. The existing seawalls are rubble masonry. I'll show you a picture in a moment. The upper retaining wall is a Versalock or a modular concrete block wall. It's not in very good condition. Neither is the seawall. It's sort of leaning and starting to fall apart, and he would like to replace them. We are proposing to use a modular concrete block system called Stone Strong, and I have the application included a lot of information on that, and I'll show you some pictures. The benefit of using a system like this is it can be constructed fairly quickly, and as you know, we have a limited window to work here. And it can be constructed in cold weather, whereas cold weather may impact concrete if you were going to use that kind of a product. So the other engineers that I worked with on this project, there was a geotechnical or soil engineer that we brought in to help with the design of this system. And he recommended Stone Strong, and we looked into it and thought it made a good product for this application. The total seawall length is 69 feet. I will show you plans in a little while. The upper retaining wall is 39 feet long. Together, these walls form a terrace, a two-level terrace stepping up from the lake. And the design that I will show you carefully replicates the existing wall geometry as closely as we could with the components that are available through Stone Strong. In places, the wall will protrude slightly into the lake. In other places, the wall will be more landward than it is now. And I calculated 12 square feet of new encroachment out into the lake and 29 square feet of new lake bed created. So the end result of this project would be 17 new square feet of lake bed. About 2,070 square feet of site will be disturbed in the upland review zone. The work will require approximately 120 cubic yards of excavation. That material is going to have to leave fairly quickly. There's nowhere to put it on the site. And the new materials will have to be constructed and placed as pretty much as soon as they arrive because of lack of working space. Pam encouraged us to come up with a proposal for the dock to get it registered, and Mr. Gutowski would like to replace the dock with a new system called PolyDock. I attached a brochure to the application. His existing dock is 12 by 12, a floating dock, and that sits out in the lake, and there's a 16-foot, 11-inch long walkway that's 4 feet wide that goes from the retaining wall out to the dock. That will be replaced by a slightly smaller dock system, 12-foot, 9-inch wide by 10 feet, 4 inches long, with a 10-foot 4 walkway by 4 foot 3 and an 8 by 4 ramp that leads from the seawall to the dock. The footprint area of the new dock would be 208 square feet. However, 8 square feet of that will be resting on the seawall. And we have a 200 square foot area that would be over the water. The new dock will be 27 feet out into the lake at its furthest point, whereas the old dock is 29 feet out. So everything's getting a little smaller and coming in a little bit closer to the lake. I've provided some pictures. The first one on the upper left here is a view looking from the lake area up toward East Wakefield Boulevard. It's a very steep slope. This object you see here is the grinder pump, sewage pump. This is one of the two seawalls in question. It's kind of bulging. You can see it here. It looks to me to be somewhat thin in cross section, too dainty for the service duty at hand here. And the wall that we will be replacing with it is much more robust and more likely to stand up over a long period of time. The lower two pictures are the upper retaining wall made of Versalock. If you were to look at this wall on site, it's kind of wavy and settling in places, and Mr. Gutowski would like to replace this at the same time. This is another view of the seawall. You can see how thin it is. This particular wall here is about 6 feet tall. It's only about 1.5 feet wide. And so it's very thin and it's bulging. You can see a bulge right here. So it's time to go. Seawall number 2 is the primary seawall out in front of his house, and it's curved in shape. It's built of rubble masonry, and it's in a state of deterioration, and he would like to replace that. This picture is a picture of the Stone Strong product. I just wanted to show you this example. You can build it on straight lines. You can build it in curves. The upper blocks can be built with a very thin lip. You'll see them here and here, so that you can plant grass or vegetation, whatever, right up to the edge of the wall. You don't see the wall thickness like you do up here in this picture. It'd be much thinner, but there's a very robust cross section beneath it. Going down here, this is a picture of the dock system Mr. Gutowski would like to build. In fact, his proposal is identical to this, except that he wants to add one more section over on the right here, forming a T. And this picture on the lower right is a picture of the boat lift that we would simply pull out and replace, put it back in the ground when we're done building the wall. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I've got all kinds of details on what the blocks look like and the dock system as well. So I'm going to cancel out of that and I'm going to go to the plans. Okay. Let's see, screen share. And I just have to find my plans. Here they are. The project was designed by Leonard Engineering. John DeCara did the survey. We hired a company called Down to Earth Consulting from Naugatuck to do soil engineering on the project. And the three of us collaborated on this project. The second sheet is an existing condition plan showing the boundary survey. And I spent a lot of time drawing this seawall down here so you could see exactly what the existing condition looks like. Seawall number 1 is a very short segment right here. It's the tallest segment of the wall system, and it's only perhaps 10 feet long. Then seawall number 2, as I call it on the plans, is this curved wall here with a set of steps that drop down into the lake. And the upper retaining wall is right here. Construction access will come down through the southerly side of Mr. Gutowski's house. There's no other way in. Boulders, ledge, decks, and a big parking area up here in the right-hand corner get in the way of construction access from the north side. So the entire project is going to have to be constructed from the north end, which is right here, and proceed this way so that the contractor, when he finishes, has not painted himself into a corner and he can go home. The proposed site plan, if you look carefully at the solid black lines, I drew right on top of the existing condition, which I left on in the background, so you could see how closely the new wall system will fit to the existing wall configuration. The only real limitations that we have in trying to make it fit perfectly is the geometry of the components that we're working with. As I mentioned, Stone Strong can be built on a curve. So we're going to bend the upper retaining wall in a little bit so there's room at the top of the stairs to move around. Right now, there's only about 2 feet when you get to the top of the stairs and you're confronted with a retaining wall. Now there'll be 3 or 4. And then we're going to build the seawall number 2 on a curve that follows very closely with the existing wall. In places, particularly in where the stairs are, the new wall will be landward or inboard of the lake from where the existing wall is. And then we're going to tie back into a boulder over here, a very large boulder on the north side. The project, as contemplated, will have erosion control measures. I'm going to use a compost filter sock, a 12-inch diameter filter sock, all along the downstream edge of our site work. During construction, the contractor, if he encounters groundwater, I've designed in a sediment basin, or a contractor can use a filter bag to discharge any groundwater that comes into the excavation while he's digging for the foundation. The nice thing about the Stone Strong system is the foundation is basically crushed stone. It's not very deep below the lake bed, maybe 18 inches below. We will put in a layer of crushed stone, and then we start building the blocks on top of that. The most important aspect of building these block walls is to get the base course set perfectly, exactly where we want it. And once that's done, the rest of them just go quickly and stack up. Moving on quickly, this drawing here is more of a construction drawing, but it can show you the thought that we had to put into this thing. There's a lot of geometry involved in this so that the wall goes together exactly the way we want it to. All the information here on the right is survey information telling the contractor exactly where he has to put the various bending points and whatnot. If the contractor gets this thing staked out and pays attention to the stakes, then the wall will go in exactly like we want it to. I've drawn every block here for the contractor so he can see how they fit together and where they curve, and where the curves end and the flat or straight tangent runs begin, etc. And these views down here are elevation views, as if you were looking at the wall from the lake. And we pretty much had to draw every block to make sure it all fit in between a boulder up here on the right and a seawall on his neighbor, Mr. Gutowski's neighbor's property over here. So everything fits nicely and should go in if it gets staked out properly. These are cross sections of the wall. One of the things I wanted to point out to you is the steepness of the overall property. You can see these are drawn to scale vertically and horizontally. They're at the same scale. So you can see the elevation drop from left to right in each one of these cross sections. And one of the things I wanted to point out in this detail up here and the one in the lower left side right here, these are Mr. Gutowski's foundations for the lake side of his house. They do not go down in the ground very deeply. And one of the reasons why we brought in a soil engineer to consult with us is because we have to dig big holes where these walls are being constructed. And we wanted to make sure that the front of the house wouldn't cave in as we dug for construction of these walls. And the soil engineer cleared those issues. These are just simply standard typical cross sections so the contractor knows exactly what elevation to excavate to. We show subgrade elevations for the various types of walls. We show the elevation for the top of each layer going up. And you can see how this lip is formed on the upper block to allow you to put topsoil right up almost to the edge of the wall. Stair details, which are pretty straightforward. It's all going to be made out of precast concrete. One of the things I wanted to do was point out the construction sequence here in our narrative. We have a very comprehensive erosion control narrative because of the sensitivity of the site and the difficulty of the project. We spent a lot of time putting this together. The meat and potatoes of this is the construction sequence, and I'm showing a 5-week sequence. It's really difficult to predict how long it was going to take a contractor to build this project. I do know from doing this for 40 years that this is a difficult project. Things will go much more slowly than they would if the contractor had all kinds of room. Because we have to move material out almost as it's being excavated and bring and put stuff in almost as soon as it's delivered to the site, it just makes the contractor work with no elbow room whatsoever. So I'm expecting it to go slower than normal. I think it will go faster than 5 weeks, but we have weather factors to deal with. We have material availability factors to deal with. So I showed a 5-week sequence. And as I had mentioned earlier, it basically the wall is going to have to be built from the north end back toward the south end so the contractor doesn't paint himself into a corner. There's other details for the filter sock, for example. Right now there's riprap on the bed of the lake. It goes right up to Mr. Gutowski's seawall. The contractor is going to have to remove that riprap and kind of stack it on top of the existing riprap so he can put a filter sock in and so that it can be sealed to the ground. The excavation will take place next to it and for the retaining wall. And as soon as the blocks start going up, this system can be removed. At the ends of these concrete block walls, we're going to have to fill in the gaps where our concrete blocks end and the boulder or Mr. Gutowski's southerly neighbor's retaining wall or seawall starts, we're gonna have to fill that in with mortared stone built by a mason. And I show details here for pump intake protection in case the contractor has to dewater the excavation. So that's a very quick, I'm gonna minimize this. If we have to bring it back up, we can.
Just end screening and sharing. I'll do it for you.
Okay, good.
And then
I apologize for going through that so quickly, but I do know there's other applications and I'll answer any questions that you have.
But there's no material being stored on site, correct?
Well, very little. I don't want to say no material. For example, when the blocks come on a big tractor trailer, contractor's going to have to take them off the truck fairly quickly. You're not going to be able to tie a truck up all day.
Yeah, no. I was more thinking, I was thinking of soil and of being removed and stockpiled.
The contractor may have to make small piles while he's digging and then have another machine come and get those piles and get them out of there. There's just no room for big stockpiles at all here.
What were you thinking as far as tonnage of material removed? Do you have a rough estimate? How many tons of material do you think would have to come out of there?
Well, I estimated 120 cubic yards of material. So if you take
depending on the material, that's probably at least 100 tons then, correct?
Well, probably a little bit more than that, probably 150.
Okay. All right. So you're rounding up from that.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's quite an extensive amount of material that's coming out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much the entire retaining wall system will have to be removed, and some of the soil material that's behind the wall will have to come out. It's being replaced by new, very large concrete blocks that will be infilled with crushed stone and some gravel backfill on the backside. So the volume of the new products have to be equal to the volume that we're removing.
Dave, have you been retained to be on site at all during the construction process?
Yes, we have an agreement in place where I'm not going to be there full time. There are certain periods of time when we want to be there, particularly when the excavation is prepared for the retaining walls. We want to make sure that the soil that we find there is meets with the assumptions that we made during the design process. So myself and the geotechnical engineer will go to the site. When the contractor tells us the subgrade of the foundation is prepared, we're going to look at it before he starts putting stone in. If we find sloppy soil, if we find something that's other than what we expected to find, then we're going to have to deal with that as a site condition.
When do you think I see what's going to happen potentially with the deep watering, and you've put a lot of effort into managing the silt out of that or pumping anything back into the lake that's now clean. What do you think do you think there's going to be deep watering necessary, or is there a projection for that, or?
It's impossible to tell. And with the lake being drawn down, that's going to draw the water table down lower than it normally is. It's so hard to say unless you dig test pits ahead of time, and we couldn't get down there to dig test pits with equipment. So I felt that it was important to have provisions in the plans for dewatering in case it's necessary. I would call it a 50-50 shot.
Right. Because that's something I know that we get very concerned about, and certainly in reference to Pam's question with the site management, that's an important issue for us and for everybody at the lake, of potentially, pumping water back out of something that contractors don't realize. And before you know it, they've got a trash pump shooting dirty water back into the lake. So that's certainly something that, I think it's important to have project management around at that time is an issue. I don't, like, I know you're contracted to be on site, but I'm just kind of bringing up some of the thoughts that I have with this. Is there any drainage behind these walls, like as a retaining, does this block require any drainage, and relieve pressure behind it, or not because it's so big essentially?
No, it's optional. You can put drains back there if you need it, but it was not recommended by the soil engineer. And the blocks are so heavy that they're designed to resist the weight of the soil behind the wall and water if it happens to build up behind the wall. But they're filled with crushed stone, and there's avenues for water to get all the way through and into this crushed stone foundation, and it'll eventually seep out the bottom.
Dave,
And
you're
I
gonna
don't know. No, go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
My only, the other question, and this may be a requirement from the town more, is there a buffer, I'm not using the right term, not a buffer zone, but when you put stone between the road and the construction site to keep debris off the main road, is that something that's gonna be used, or? I don't know the name of that.
Construction
we've got
entrance?
another big, what's that?
A construction entrance?
Yes, is that on the plan or no?
No, we didn't think that there was going to be a lot of trucks going in and out of there. The contractor's pretty much going to have to haul the material up to the top of the street and then load it in a truck. Right.
Okay, so the truck is going to be part, because you've got a lot of, I think of that removal as triaxles. You've got quite a few loads there, but you're saying that is not going to occur on the property. It's going to occur on the road essentially.
Right. There's no way for dump trucks to be driving in and out of the site. It's tough to walk up and down the hill. It's so steep. So it's going to have to be track equipment bringing material up to the top of the road and then somehow loading it in a truck at the road. So the traffic going in and out of the site is not going to be extensive.
When you say track equipment, you mean like Polarises and mules, those types of things?
I'm sorry, your voice was very faint. I could barely hear you.
When you say track equipment, you mean like you're going to use mules, little Polaris vehicles? Is that how you're going to get up and down the hill with the material?
Well, the means and methods for getting the job done rest with the contractor. Each contractor has their own way of doing things, so it's difficult to predict exactly how they're going to do it. On steep sites, I've seen relatively small track-mounted machines with little dump bodies on the back of them hauling material up and down the hill, but every contractor doesn't have something like that. So to answer your question, it's difficult to predict, but I know that they're not going to be bringing dump trucks in and out because it's too steep.
Right. So but the removal of the material itself is going to happen by hand from the wall area.
No machines. They're going to have to get a machine, walk a track machine down the steep embankment, get it down there, start dismantling the seawall, and then gradually excavating it and somehow find a way to get that material all the way back up to the road where they can load it in a truck.
It's the topography that doesn't lend itself to truck traffic, the wheels. You need track, equipment with tracks is that right, Dave?
Yes. Yeah.
Dave, what's the drop from the road to the seawall in terms of an angle? Is it a 30% drop, pitch, 20%?
It's close to, it's a 30-foot drop from the street to the lake bed.
And what's the distance from the street to the lake bed?
95 feet.
So it's a 30-foot drop over 95 feet.
Yes, sir. Very steep.
Just to give everybody a scale, probably one thing to answer Mary Ann's question probably is that most contractors, and Dave, you can attest this, will use as big of equipment as they possibly can to get in there, because you need to scoop out essentially 150 tons of material a big triaxle truck, the big size dump trucks that you see on the road is about 20, correct? It takes
Yeah.
about 20 tons a load. So if you've got 150, that maybe help you with the scale of this project, which is fairly significant.
Yeah.
Dave, you, in reviewing your proposal, it's very comprehensive. How comfortable are you with the dewatering apparatus that you've suggested? Because I think inevitably, even with a deep drawdown, and you're going to go down, you said around 2 feet, 18 inches before you put the crushed rock down, I think you're going to hit water.
Well, as I said, it's a 50-50 bet that we'll hit it. If we do hit water, it's not going to be gushers. It's seepage, slow seepage into the excavation. It's going to tend to want to make the bottom muddy. The contractor's going to have to sink a couple of well points into the bottom of the excavation, which we have a detail for, and draw water into those with a trash pump and send it out to the sediment basin or to a what they call a dirt bag. It's like a vacuum cleaner bag almost. So, you know, there's nothing else we can do. If we're going to have to dig in there to put the wall in, then we have to dig to put the wall in. And if we hit water, we have to deal with it. There's really nowhere else to put the water except to filter it and send it back toward the lake.
And this project you're looking, I'm sorry, go ahead, Steve.
Pam, is that some kind of standard procedure, sending it back into the lake?
Yeah, after being filtered. Yeah. Like he says, you know,
There's no
no other way.
alternative.
Right. But the idea is, and what we've run into is that, you know, you want to make sure it's not just a straight shot into the lake. You want to make sure that there's some filtering of it, you know, and it doesn't increase the turbidity, but that's why you want this kind of project done during a deep drawdown. It's going to be the driest it's going to be.
Yeah.
And probably, you know, Dave, you said 5 weeks for the, you know, I'm counting, say this goes for approval at the next regular meeting on October 21st. That gives you 11 weeks. You'll be certainly fine with 11 weeks, even in any unforeseen weather events, right? Like 11 weeks should be adequate, right?
Well, I'm hoping that's the case. You know, there's always anything after December 1st is always dicey with snow. Snow makes movement of track machinery almost impossible. So it's going to be a you know, keep your fingers crossed kind of thing that it doesn't snow. That's number one. Number two is material availability. These blocks that Mr. Gutowski would like to build his wall with are not manufactured yet. And he can't order them or should not order them until he has some kind of an approval, because there's going to be thousands and thousands of dollars to buy these blocks. And if he orders them tomorrow so that they're here when you approve this in October 21st, and you say no, he's got a lot of blocks, nowhere to put them, and no money left. So there's a lot of things to think about here, and there's contractor availability issues too. So I think 11 weeks should do it if everything works out well. We should be done before the drawdown ceases.
Sorry, I just want to ask a quick question addressing what you just said about the materials. You know, if this is approved and the material order goes in and you learn that the materials won't be ready in time, would you then want to default to a different material? And do you have like a backup plan there?
Well, we've talked to the manufacturer and he's standing by, knowing full well that we're not going to have approvals until probably the middle or late October here. He said that he could have the materials ready for November, in the middle of November at some point. Mike Gutowski, have you heard anything different from that, from Aero Concrete?
Yeah, I spoke to Aero Concrete last week. They're working on another large project in the state that involves the same type of block. And they can basically intersperse that project with the block that we're going to use for our project. So November 1, potentially we could have a delivery date. So I just need to give them a purchase order.
Can we shift gears for a minute and talk about the docks that you're proposing?
Sure.
Pam, just bear me out. He's removing docks, which is okay, but he's replacing them with a floating dock of 12.9 by 10.4 and a 10-foot 4 by a 4-foot-3 walkway and an 8x4 ramp. My sense is the 12.9 and the 10.4 are not in compliance with the ordinance.
Yeah, the 12.4 is not for sure.
The 12.9,
Well, I'm talking about I think it's
10.4.
the float on the end of the ramp is
Right.
not in compliance. That should be
We
10,
need-
10
we-
by 10.
Sorry. We need a frontage plan and a plan of the docks and the dimensions
Okay.
and front dimensions.
We showed it on the site plan. Pam, can I call that back up or?
Couldn't really see it.
Looking at the paper site plan, but it doesn't have the dimensions called out. The dimensions are in your project narrative.
Right. So let's just go to the plans for 1 second. What you will see if you focus on the area of the docks, in light gray is the existing dock, and it's called out with an arrow pointing to it. And in darker pen is the proposed dock. So you can see kind of graphically that the proposal is slightly smaller than the existing and a little bit closer to the shore when we get done. So I'm going to close that one out, and I'm going to go back to the application if I could. Find it. Where we proposed.
Go to your application, Dave, and you have,
Yes, I just have to find it in my screens here. I don't
it's
know
towards
why.
the end. It's like the second. Yeah.
Struggling to find it. Okay. Well, you all have the applications in front of you, right?
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So why don't we?
Well, but just to long and the short of it is that the float at the end of the dock can't be wider than 10 feet to be in compliance, and the floating dock has to be 10 by 15 or less, maximum 10 by 15.
No, the float at the end and the swim float, I think they can be up to 12 by 12.
Really? I'm looking at the ordinance now. Maximum dimensions for non-inflatable swim float are 10 by 10.
Right.
Oh yeah, sorry, 10 by 10. Sorry, I was looking at the circular.
Dave, is this what you were looking for?
Yes. Right. I learned a lot by watching the last two meetings, but when we laid this all out, the presumption was we're making it smaller, so therefore we would be okay. But
Do you have a copy of the regulations?
yes, I do.
And how much frontage is there on the property?
I will get you that answer in 1 second. Approximately 80 feet. And that depends on how you measure it. It's actually longer than 80 if you measure along the seawalls.
Yeah, and they do add, it's not across the property. Everywhere there's a jog, you measure the seawall.
Okay, so then it's much more than 80. I'll measure it quickly with a scale.
Any sense at all?
So just quickly, what size does this dock need? The floating end part of it can't be bigger than 10 by 10?
No, it can be up to 12 by 12 if I'm not mistaken.
No, she just looked it up.
Okay, I'm sorry. So you're saying that it is in compliance correctly?
I'm not sure, only because on page 5 of 9, maybe there's more to it, but B, top of the page, the maximum total square footage of surface area for a dock shall be 320 square feet, maximum length 40 feet extended perpendicular from the shorefront, maximum width of a dock at any point into the watercourse shall be 10 feet measured parallel to the shoreline.
Yeah.
So it seems like the width is it's a width issue then. I mean, we have the length is fine going up, but it's a width issue, that 12'9" total.
Yeah.
Really should be 10 feet.
Right.
That's correct.
I think what everyone does is that platform at the end of their dock, they call it a swim platform.
Well, swim platforms are only 10 by 10 also. My sense is, if the ordinance is what it is, the homeowner, I don't see making a big issue out of the width of that T at the end of the dock. Am I correct?
Well, I mean, it's a new dock, so it should
It's
be.
got to comply. It's got to comply.
Yeah.
So are we in agreement that that dock should be, that the end of the floating dock, it should really only be, according to ordinances, 10 by 10 maximum?
Well, the width has to be 10, according to the ordinance.
Yeah.
The length could be longer as long as the total length between the ramp and the float doesn't exceed 40 feet.
Right.
The width parallel to the land.
The float. Well, if it's attached, it's part of the dock.
Yes, but that affects the length, right? So right now, the length that they're proposing of the entire dock
It's okay.
is
It's
okay.
20
Yeah,
It's 28 feet.
Yeah, that's fine.
it's the width that's 2 feet too wide, so they have to reduce that by 2 feet.
3 feet, almost 3 feet.
The end of the platform can be switched around, so the 10-foot width could be side to side, and the 12-foot could go out further into the lake by another 2 feet, because the dock is modular, so it's how it's manufactured.
But that would still be
Right.
10 foot 4 inches.
So if they switched it around, that would essentially, if you spun it 180, that would bring it into ordinance, correct?
I
Well,
think
is it a dock or is it a float?
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's attached to it, so I think we're considering it a dock, correct?
Well, Jackie, he's asking for both. He's asking for a dock and he's asking for a swim float.
Right, okay, but we're looking at the dock.
Correct.
And if a dock can only be, how wide can a dock be? 10 feet?
Correct.
Okay.
so. If we turn this 90 degrees, it would be 10 feet 4 inches parallel to the shore, which is 4 inches in excess of your ordinance.
Right.
The polydock system offers a 3 by 10 panel. So if you had 3 of those 3-foot panels, it would be slightly less than 10 feet when you look at the actual dimensions.
Well, or you could have 4 of them and spin it and give him what he's looking for,
Yeah.
which would be 12 by 10.
So we were coming back on the 21st anyway. Can we revise this detail?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Okay.
I mean, it seems kind of like it has to be done, but it almost seems quaint in comparison to the rest
Sure.
of the job.
Yeah.
Well, we might as well get it correct now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
My suggestion would be any configuration that you're thinking of in order to expedite approval or us making a decision next month and not holding up the project, is to sit down with Pam and run by what your proposal is, right, Pam?
Yeah, but I looked at this and I missed it, so
Okay, not a matter of missing it. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, if he submits the proposal to you ahead of
yes,
time,
and I'll get that to you in your
then we
package.
don't
Yep,
waste time at the meeting
yep,
talking
easy
about it
peasy.
again.
Yep,
Yeah, I
Yep.
think this is a quick fix.
yeah,
It's just spin it around and add another one to it if you're using the 3-footer, so you have 12, and it keeps it pretty good size and
Yep.
you're done.
yep,
Yeah, it's just got to be on the application, that's all.
yep.
Can I ask a question about the Stone Strong systems? Do you guys know if anyone else has used this at the lake before for this purpose?
I do not know. I know they're used extensively throughout the state, but I don't know of any directly at Highland Lake.
But for this purpose, like to basically be a retaining wall
Yeah.
at the edge of land and, okay, cool, great.
Lippincott did Lippincott did, Jeff
That was
Lippincott did
Lippin-
a,
Okay, great. That's good to know. The only thing that sort of sent my antenna up was the word stains. So I just want to make sure it's something that's, environmentally safe and okay to be there directly with the watershed. So, we can do a little research on our end before the next meeting.
The other thing I wanted to look at here was it doesn't appear that we have a vegetated buffer on this, correct? I mean, we've looked at that for most of these seawalls. We've been requiring that
Yeah.
throughout, but I don't really see that in this, or it may not. It looks like it's just grass right up to it.
Yes, what we, if you look at the plan, there's a cross-hatched area that's next to the house, up against the front of the house. And Mr. Gutowski was going to plant that as a buffer in lieu of planting something right along the edge of the lake. The retaining wall system is going to be filled with crushed stone. It's going to be very arid. And we were concerned that you wouldn't get plants to grow in that type of arid condition. So we moved it up to the top.
Dave, it's easier for you to look at it than for me to go back through the big, all of the maps you've given us. On the maps, did you indicate the littoral boundaries and the setbacks for the boat lift and the docks? Based on the
We
on
did
the
not.
littoral bound? You
We
did
did not
or
show
did
the
not?
littorals because we were out in the middle of the property with the dock, so I didn't even bother, but
I
if
just
you
put it
like-
on just for,
Sure.
conversation. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
will the commission accept 11 by 17 of that?
You broke up, Pam.
I know, it's my internet thing. But will the commission accept an 11 by 17 depiction so that we don't need 24 by
Yeah,
36
yeah.
size? Yeah. So
Yeah.
for the littoral boundary, so if we can just add that,
Yeah.
we'll print it off.
Are there any additional questions, or is this something I think we can move to our next meeting?
To
for the
accept,
next
yeah.
phase?
Yep, and you just want to talk about whether or not it's significant activity or not, and because I will say that we're going to be pressed for time. If you were to hold a public hearing and any of the applications tonight, just bear in mind, and I brought it up at the last meeting, that about scheduling a special meeting for November 4th, because I just don't think there's enough time to do what we would need to do for a public hearing if at this point for the next meeting. It's only 2 weeks away.
Well, certainly, I mean, it's a large, fairly good-sized excavation project. There's no doubt about that. It's a heavily engineered project, and
It requires a public hearing.
Pam, you're
But
saying
that-
we don't have time to get notifications out for a public hearing by the next meeting?
Unless I do it tonight. Yeah, whatever, we'll make it work. If you wanna, we will get that public hearing for October 21st if, because we don't wanna, otherwise everyone's held up 2 weeks.
Is there a reason why special meetings have to be on Wednesday nights? Could we schedule a special meeting on another night?
Yes, try to stay away from Mondays, just because with Zoom, the Board of Selectmen and Planning and Zoning both meet on Mondays, alternating Mondays, so, we've got.
I mean, I'm open to doing a special meeting. I'm cognizant of this thing could have a lot of different snags. So putting it off to November 4th seems far away. Do you think there's a middle ground between the 21st and the 4th that we could make?
If you're gonna find that you want a public hearing, have it for the 21st and I'll get it done. If that's okay, Dave, right? I mean, it's some scrambling on your part too.
Yeah, when the notices have to be, what, 10 days before?
Right.
Okay, so we can get that done.
Pam, I'll
But I
drive
think-
down and help you tonight if you want.
Well, I think it is a significant, I mean, we've been requiring this more and more for people with these larger projects. I think we should move ahead and we can do it in a time frame that still allows them to keep their project moving ahead. We owe it to the, other people that we've required it for and the neighbors for this sort of project.
Yeah, I
Would you
agree.
do that? Would
but
you do
I'm-
that in public interest or
What's that?
do it in the public interest?
Yes. Oh, I can't hear you.
I think
You have to give a reason for the public hearing, Russ.
I guess it would be the public interest, which would be the neighbor, correct?
it'd be the
Neighbors, I mean, I'd like to discuss, what's that, Jackie?
Be the lake,
It'd be the lake. It's the water
lake.
quality of the lake.
so
Yeah.
big.
Yeah,
It would be a significant impact.
yeah.
Okay, so it is I would call it a public meeting for the interest of the public, being the lake.
Well, is it significant activity or public
Yes,
interest?
it is a significant activity.
Okay.
It's kind of both.
That makes a difference.
It's sort of both, right, Pam? I mean, pick your poison. But I mean,
But it makes a difference. If you find it that it's significant activity, then the applicant has to present alternatives and why this is the most.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I
Can
think
you hear me?
a public hearing, Russ, for significant activity, the burden is more on the applicant to prove why it's not and that he has an alternative suggestion. If it's for public interest, then it stands alone and we can just move ahead with it just for dissemination of information.
As a
I think
public
Right,
that-
it's easier
I
if
think-
it's public interest.
I think that's sufficient.
yeah, well, I think these guys have gone to such, these guys have really gone very far and put in a lot of effort and energy to, engineer this properly, to do it in a way that's compliant, that is sensitive to the ecosystem. And I think that, I feel comfortable going forward with it in the public interest.
Yes, I think that's correct. It's a heavily engineered project with a lot of incredible amount of hours into the beginning of it to make this hopefully go off smoothly. So I would agree that it should go public interest as a reason for the, the public hearing. Or, yes, for a public hearing.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept application 20-40, 610 West Wakefield Boulevard. Remove and replace seawall, remove and replace interior retaining wall, replace and relocate dock, reset boat lift. As a public hearing scheduled for October 21st.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Kurt,
Kurt, you there? Nope, okay. Did you get all those who approve? All those who disapprove? Sorry.
Okay, and anyone opposed? Kurt's opposed, okay.
Okay.
And no one's abstaining. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
good night.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you at our next meeting.
Okay.
That said, I'd like to move on to item F, which is IWWC 20-41. The applicant is Lynn and Hank Holdner.
Yes.
It's 750 East Wakefield Boulevard to repair and locate pier and register dock. And I'm looking to see if they are here. Yes, they are.
Here. Yes, we're here.
Okay.
Thank you. Ours is going to be easy compared to what you just heard.
Thanks.
Tell us
Very-
about your project.
Well, we have a small pier. Do you have the folder in front of you? It was a purple.
I'm pulling it out right now.
It's a purple folder. And you can see the picture of a small piece of concrete.
Yeah, I'm just looking through this.
Uh-oh.
Go through those pictures.
I'm looking at this. Could you actually just give us the owners a brief overview of what you're doing, maybe in a nutshell here real quick?
Oh, of course. Very, very easily. Sure. We have an aluminum dock that's been part of the property. This property has been handed down to my family for 3 generations. So as you can see by those pictures, there's an aluminum dock there. Now, what supports that aluminum dock is a stanchion, 2 poles, two poles. If you see by the picture there, there's that concrete piece, and you see 2 holes there. And there are, what do you call them?
There's a series of 2 pipes vertically
Pipes.
coming out with a plate that supports the 2
Sure.
pieces of runway where they come together.
Okay, so what's happened over the course of many, many years, because of the current and whatever, is that piece of concrete has moved approximately 3 inches to the south. And as a result, the dock is very unsafe. As a matter of fact, we took the dock and the boat out a whole month early because the dock was not supporting everything. It shifts. So we have to dig up that piece of cement and move it over 3 inches so that everything will be lined up. And you could see by the arrows on the bottom of the page, can you see those hooks?
Yeah.
Their
eyes?
eyebolts, that's where the dock starts, and where the pier is, it's shifted right and it twisted the first piece and second piece of runway out of alignment. So what we're trying to do is move that concrete pier or slab back into position to realign the runways. That's basically what we're asking for.
And are you using that existing concrete block?
Yes.
No, that is a poured cast
No, yes,
piece
we
of
are.
concrete.
Yes,
Yeah, we're
we
gonna
are.
use that, yeah.
Yep.
You're just gonna dig it and slide it over.
There
Dig
you
it
go.
and slide it over, yes.
I told you we were easy.
Yeah, those are the pictures that you're looking at now. You're looking down, standing on the runway, and you're seeing how much the dock is out of alignment. It's up tight on one side, and it's not centered on the plate between the 2 vertical poles.
And we're also looking, so I get that part, we're also looking to apply to basically register this dock as, essentially as is, correct?
Exactly. We never knew because the house was handed down from generation to generation. We never knew that even a dock had to be registered. So it was Pam's suggestion that while we were going for this approval, that we register the dock.
Guys, I think I need to recuse myself from this one because these folks are pretty close family friends of mine. Sorry, I'm gonna.
No, that's fine. That's the right decision.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know, can we just approve this?
I mean, it doesn't, and we're talking about moving a block over and
Yes.
Say that again, Pam?
I'm sorry, Pam, I couldn't hear you.
Yes. Yeah, yes, you can
Yes, I mean,
accept
we
it
do-
tonight,
we do have to-
finding it as not significant activity, and you can approve it. Yes.
Okay.
I think we should.
I just have one question. I know you're gonna move it over 3 inches and it has to be done by hand,
Correct.
okay? What's going to ensure that it's not gonna move back to 3 inches or whatever? Seriously. Only because you lose the opportunity after this for 5 more years, so.
Well, it took a long time for that particular block to move that 3 inches. So when we had the drawdown and realized that we had to go for the approvals, we quickly scampered and, came in before the committee. So we're hoping, we'll have several more years, 10, 15 more years before it moves again.
And that block is strictly on the surface, none of
I
it is.
am gonna,
The
Can I read
block,
that out again?
yeah, the block itself probably is a few inches below the surface. The existing lake, where it sits on the lake bed.
Pam, we didn't hear your last comment.
just the dock does not comply with the dock and mooring ordinance. So if you're inclined to want to approve the relocation of the pier based on how the discussion that occurred.
Earlier.
How long is the dock?
I'm sorry?
How long is the
What
dock?
is the size of your dock?
The measurements are on the first piece of paper that we
Okay, hold on.
submitted. Let's see. There are substantial, is that the word? There are 2 pieces of runway that go out to the end of the dock. With position, length of the runway, 29 feet.
It's 29 feet long by 32 inches wide.
Can you register a dock that's not in compliance, Pam? Because we're not really touching the dock like the other guy. We're just moving the,
Yeah, you can, you're not,
okay,
it's not a new structure, it's an existing structure. You wanna,
okay, so,
You're
okay.
not doing it to it.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
the
No, the
argument,
dock is, the dock is all prefab sections of aluminum.
Okay.
it's the same thing as just on a much, 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 much smaller scale. It's a tiny little pier, but that tiny little pier is supporting this non-conforming dock.
I got you.
Correct.
Correct, yes.
What is the extent of the non-conformance of this dock?
The length.
Why?
I thought it was only,
It couldn't be 40.
it's only 29 feet long, right?
Yeah, but then the float at the end of it.
Oh,
Oh,
Oh.
well, tell us about that.
why, I didn't see the float.
I didn't either.
It's on
How
the
long is the float?
registration form in the application.
It's on the application. We can't see it here. Okay.
You want me to pull it up?
Is it in the packet?
No. Oh, it is?
It's actually on
It
the
is.
form. Yeah.
Wait, it is, wrong paper, hold on.
Basically, it looks like the float is 4 feet over, right? You got 29 feet and 15.
I don't see a picture of it, so I'm not.
Let's see, is there something?
No, I don't think we get it.
There's a walkway and a dock. I don't see a floating.
There are three pieces of aluminum that are put together with U-hooks that are at the end of the dock that provide, allow us to put our motorboat at the end of the dock. So, so it's, well, the more measurements are
The
here.
measurement, yeah,
Let's
the piece of the dock, excluding the runway, is 15 by 12 feet wide.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
Yeah,
So it's going out 40, essentially it's going out 44 feet.
Right.
And our requirement is 40.
40.
40 and then the width, but
With this, what it does say?
10. Remember, the width is
Oh,
12.
10 and we're at 12.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. You know, we can take that. I don't know how you want to deal with it.
Well,
This is why they're before you and why I didn't say, oh, just go ahead. I wouldn't anyways, but I mean, it is, you're talking about moving something 3 inches. Yeah, they have to shovel down and, you know, they're going to do it by hand. You know, there's going to be no equipment. You know, it's a very quick fix, probably half a day if you dog it.
Not even.
yeah.
Yeah, so we know that it's a pretty, that component of it. I guess really the question is do we want to, bring, apparently this dock has been here
55 years.
Right.
55 years.
You know,
Yeah, it's been here a long time.
and you know, believe me, I just like you as commissioners and neighbors take no pleasure in, you know, as the agent, you know, when they come in, everyone, if I don't have a registration, if you're doing, you know, it's the time to talk about it, but however you want to handle it, it's definitely, you know, you could just approve. We could leave the dock alone and you could just approve relocation of the pier.
Well, I'd certainly be willing to do that. Registering it, I mean, my thought on it is that it has been there in one family for a very long time.
It does come out, we put it in Memorial Day weekend and it usually comes out Columbus Day weekend.
You know what, guys, you can't have your cake and eat it on this. Not the applicant, the commission.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you can't give somebody a hard time and close your eyes to somebody else.
Yeah, but in your own words, you said the other day, you just said before in the beginning that you can because it's per case.
But it's the same case now.
It's not, it's a different house.
Pick your poison. That's
Well,
why
I mean,
I'm saying in the
one
last book.
solution I know it's exactly what you're saying, Steve. It's tough. One solution would be to not register the dock and then just approve the repair of moving it over.
Which is
They do
how
it.
it's always been. That's
That-
where,
Yeah.
you know, they come in and they don't mention to you that they've got a 75-foot dock. I'm just saying, and so it's
I'm okay with my thinking the other way. I'm just saying, I'm calling you out,
Thank you.
You can't push somebody's head to the grinder and close your eyes to something else.
Right,
That's
but
all.
I don't think this is a structural issue, though. This is different.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It does to me.
Something is out of compliance that now they're attempting to fix something else and then put that piece back on it, and it's still out of compliance, and I'm okay with it. But, the last time everybody was bent out of shape on it. So,
so do we have to put a condition that at the
next year.
town they'll fix this?
Well, we certainly could. I mean, I know it.
You know what, we hear all year with this.
No, I know, but one question would be to the owners, would they, I mean, what we're really talking about mostly is 4 feet of dock, correct?
By 2 feet, because the width is off too.
Okay.
You have to understand, commissioners, that the dock, the length of the dock is important because of the length of the boat that we own, that we also purchased for my dad when we bought the cottage. So the size of the dock that's there is necessary to support that boat so that it's safe. You know what I mean? And then on a good wind, it isn't going to blow away, or you know what I'm saying? We've had a lot of strong winds. We've had a lot of strong winds and hurricanes or whatever down in Third Bay. And, you know, really, that's what's really required to keep everything there safe.
It's not the dock, it's the float at the end of the dock.
I
Yeah.
understand, but our
The
boat
boat
is 19
attaches,
feet.
yeah.
Our boat is a ski boat, a Supra, and it's, I think, 18 and a half feet long. And as it is, you know, we need the length of that dock, the 12 feet or whatever, to support that boat. And these pieces that my grandmother put in many years ago, they're prefab pieces that you put together to create this dock, and there are 3 pieces there. So in essence, if you deny us, we have to replace everything, which is not possible.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, it's just, we're just trying to come up with some continuity of how we're discussing these and voting on them, which is, you know, challenging to say the least.
Well,
we asked the commissioner to please, I know this is a hard decision. You know, this cottage has been in our family for 90 years at least, from my grandmother to my father and now to us. And we're just trying to do the right thing and keep the cottage healthy and the dock good. And it's also going to go to our kids. Our kids are coming up from New York and spending time with us and being there at this cottage. And we're doing the right thing to keep the lake healthy. So we just ask that you please approve it. You know, we're doing our best to do the right thing.
Well, we have to do the right thing, and that would be to make it go into compliance. So we're talking about 2 different things.
I understand. I understand.
that's to move a concrete pier. We could approve that they could move the concrete block.
See, that's what I'm thinking. And then when the dock becomes an issue, make it comply at that point, just like we're doing with the other guy. We're making him do it in 5 years from now.
So in other words, if something is wrong with our dock that needs to be fixed, we need to come before you and ask for permission. Is that correct? And then at that point, you
would have to anyway, but what we're saying is you're wanting, at that point, we would probably make you come into compliance with the dock ordinance, which is too long and it's too wide.
But don't we fall under any kind of pre-existing
The dock,
condition?
then they'd have to do it, but they don't have to do it now.
Right, that's what I'm saying, because it is grandfathered and you have had it for years.
Yeah.
So any future modifications, we would have to come before the board and bring this into compliance, correct?
Correct.
So for now, we're just approving the shifting of the pier over so we safeten up the dock that's there, period.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the last guy.
Do we want a motion?
Let me make a motion. I don't have something in front of me here. Hold on.
Was there a draft?
It was rather lengthy, I think. Hold on.
So part of your motion is that you want to accept the application and find it as not significant activity because you haven't accepted it yet. And then if you're inclined to approve it this evening, please include whatever conditions you're inclined to include, whatever you think you want to include.
In that they would have to do that anyway. I don't think it has to be a condition. Right? Isn't that what you just said, Christine?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion for first saying this is I'd like to make a motion to approve application IWC 20-41 to,
First, accept it, Russ. The first part of your motion is that you're accepting it.
I would like to make a motion to accept. the
And finding it as
application.
not significant.
I'd like to make a motion to accept application 20-41 as a it's not a significant activity. Repair and relocate pier.
Block.
What's
Yeah.
that?
No, never mind.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
You saying,
What, Kurt?
nothing, go ahead. I'm
Okay.
saying it doesn't need a public hearing.
Oh, it
Right,
doesn't. Oh,
I think I've established that it doesn't need a public hearing.
That's what
So-
that's what I'm trying to say.
All of those. All
What
of
do you
those.
want to do with the registration?
What's that?
What should we do about the registration?
It's not part of the, we're not touching, it's not part of, it's not part of the application.
It isn't? It isn't mine, right?
He's not including it to approve it.
Oh, he's not including that to approve it. That's what my question is. Okay,
Right.
Okay.
okay.
Would I need to put that as a condition that it's not, or just the way I
The
said it?
minutes are gonna reflect the discussion. You don't have to approve it. You're,
Right, this is just to repair the
No,
base
to
of
move.
the dock. Does that make sense?
to repair and relocate the pier.
Repair and relocate the pier. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, that was Jackie. All those in favor? That's unanimous.
Lynn, you thought this was easy, right?
No,
Well,
hey,
I thought, but
only,
yes, but,
listen, we only accepted the application.
Right.
right. I understand.
Now we approve it, right?
No, I thought we were approving it for,
Yeah, he did.
no, I put in for to approve.
Do you need to
it.
call the vote again? Like, you know,
I'm
because I don't
sorry.
want you voting for something you didn't.
Tim, I thought you said you have to accept it first.
He did.
Yeah.
No, he accepted it. He accepted it's all part of the same motion. That he accepted the application, finding it as a not significant activity, and to approve the repair and relocate of pier
Yes,
was
I
his motion.
misunderstood that.
that is what's in front of us. So I'd like to call that, what Pam just discussed, I'd like to call that as a vote. All those in favor? All those that disapprove? And abstain? Thank you.
So it's approved.
So it is approved.
The pier is.
Yeah.
Now, I think that you can make a second motion to approve the register of the dock, and you can deny that. And that doesn't mean that you're telling them they're gonna take the dock out. You're just not approving the dock.
But do we
That needs to be noted.
approve registration of everybody who comes in and registers a dock?
And Jackie, they're being encouraged to, because you either want compliance to, and, you know, like they are being, you know, this was at the behest of me, because I think you want to be reviewing it.
But do we, everybody who comes in to register a dock doesn't have to come before us and get it approved?
Let's put it this way, there's 400 properties. I told you I had done, you know, we've had this in discussions that, you know, it was part of the March, you know, undertaking, because, and most of the properties aren't in compliance. So how, you know, how do I begin enforcement of the non-compliant properties unless we figure out, you know?
First we register them and then we deal with it. Is that what you're saying?
Not even, I mean, you know, like,
They have to come to a meeting, that's what, I mean, seems a little much.
I understand you feel that way.
How do you allow anybody, not this particular individual, how do you allow anybody who has a non-conforming issue, in
Yeah.
broad terms,
Yep.
be approved for a registration? We're obligated to disapprove it and bring them into compliance.
Well,
Yeah.
may I ask a question, please? Because I read something that Pam gave to us on page 4 of the papers here, section 8, about May 11th, 1993, as far as the ordinance and how long the dock has been, in existence. So would we qualify under that?
Can I read you a response, a question and a response from the attorney of our town?
Of course.
The Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Commission asked that I email you, this is Pam, that I email you with a legal question. Can applications before them that include proposed repair work to a non-conforming dock be denied as a means of gaining compliance with the dock and mooring ordinance? I am pretty sure they can deny anything where a more feasible and prudent alternative might be available, okay? If you were listening to the application before that, where we went back and forth and bickered, I don't know if you heard.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes,
Okay.
everything.
You're basically in the exact same position as the other gentleman. You're moving 3 inches, and he's lifting up and putting 5 brick underneath something to make it stable. You're moving it to make it stable also. Our attorney wrote back, yes, they can deny as the work is to be done on an illegal structure. So the other gentleman's structure was illegal. Your structure is illegal. Our behavior is different in the same instance. So that's the confusion and the dilemma we're dealing with.
And the only thing I would point out is that the attorney didn't say that you must deny.
No.
It's
No, he said no.
it's definitely within your discretion.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We already approved this, so we're going to have to discuss it a lot more, I can see.
Have a good night. Good luck.
Thank you.
And I hope it doesn't get stuck in the mud.
We hope so too.
It
Thank
will.
you very much.
Good night.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Pam, for your kindness. You were very kind to us. Very patient with me. I appreciate it.
I love the deed you included in your application.
Isn't that something that, yes, that's the only thing we have.
Did you guys read it?
Yeah, it's neat.
Okay. That said, I know we're approaching our 10 o'clock, but I do want to get started with
Valuable sum of money.
the next application. I'd like to just take a 5-minute recess. Is that okay?
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Would anybody be open to just a 5-minute recess before we get started on our final one here?
Go for it.
It's not the final one. You have 3 more.
We said
9:48. So I had capped this at 10 o'clock. And before we spoke on the new ones, they'd have to get moved on to the next one.
Right, so she's saying there's only time for one more.
But
What's
so
that,
long
Pam?
if there's anyone who's willing to continue on, you can, so long as you have 5. If anyone's inclined, I didn't throw that out in the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah. Well, let's just I'd like to just take a 5-minute recess.
Sure, yep.
Okay.
So Pam, how am I supposed to find the link to sign in every week? Because I have this problem every week, and I go to the.
It's in the email. I
went through every email you sent me. I did not see it.
it's at the top of the agenda.
Top of the agenda? The written agenda?
I will show you. Give me 1 second and I'll pull it
Oh,
up.
I'd have to type that whole link?
No, you have to leave it on your computer,
Oh.
iPad.
Oh, like copy and paste it?
No, just,
Christine, are you looking? Where are you?
Yeah, I'm looking at my
All right,
packet.
look, watch. See right here?
Yeah.
I sent this to you on 9/24.
Wait, leave that there for a second. I want to make sure you got my email. chrishunter@snet.net. Yeah, I didn't get that one.
I
you know
sent
what?
it.
I didn't get that one.
I sent it the morning after the meeting last time.
Oh, it was the morning after and we had a series of them. Okay, so
No,
let me,
so every time you got to look for this meeting, because this link, or alternatively, you just open the Zoom app like you did tonight, and
Yeah.
you just put in the meeting ID and the passcode. This will just take you right to the meeting if you already have the app, the link. It's convenient, so you don't have to type anything in. It just takes you right there. But
okay.
when push comes to shove, if you're in a crunch and you can't find, the link or the email, and you
Yeah.
have the agenda in front of you, this meeting ID and passcode will,
Yeah, I didn't realize it's at the top of the agenda, so I've got it now.
okay.
I'll figure that out next time. Yeah, I don't think you need the ID and password.
You don't if you click on the link. If you don't click on the link and you just open the app, then you need the ID and passcode.
So how do people who are coming to,
I try to send them a link to be convenient, but if not, then you have to go to the Zoom app and enter the meeting ID and passcode, which is always on the agenda.
but if someone wants to come to a public hearing, how would they find that?
Same thing. Open the Zoom app and enter the meeting ID and the passcode.
And that's on the town records.
That's on the agenda. It's part of their notice that they get. The meeting ID and passcode is part of the mailing that they get, that the applicant has to send to everyone.
Oh, and it's not a public hearing that anyone in the town could come to. It's within.
No, it actually is. Anyone in the town can come. And if they just wanted to view it and not necessarily show their face or their name or what, they can watch it through the live stream.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, thanks.
Pam, I know you had mentioned, we do have, I want to.
Right, the 3 more
applications.
applications. So is anyone willing to go past? That's what Russ is about to ask.
Yeah, I'm
So
about to ask.
They're not here. Is Christine and Jackie, do you have time tonight to hear all 3 remaining applications?
This is old business, right? So let's see.
Let's let them go.
Well, the next one looks like it's going to be rather extensive.
Yeah.
I think we pushed them off. Sorry to say, they've been waiting for 3 hours.
If I may, this is Brian Dwyer. I've been waiting like a month. We had this in a month ago and it got pushed off to 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we didn't even get heard. We waited to even submit this until we had all of our ducks in a row, the engineering, site plan, survey, everything, so as not to waste the commission's time. And meanwhile, I've sat through 6 hours of Hinsdale school meetings. So the last one on the agenda, I'm actually going to ask for a continuance because I don't have the survey for Sylvia Giambra yet. But for George Makowitz, I think I'd love to be able to get heard and accepted tonight as the water's dropping more every day.
So we're 2044, we're not going to go over.
All right, George, I'm going to hang up.
Yeah, because they're not ready.
Okay.
Okay.
Then it's 2 more that you
Let's
have
just,
to.
let's go through, let's dig
We'll
into
go through the
this.
2. Okay.
So is everyone back? Not yet. Let's wait for Steve and then
I'm back,
Marian's
sorry.
back. Yep, okay.
One break.
Well, we have a quorum. We could get started.
I am the next one. I just want to make sure you guys can hear me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are we all back here? No, we're just waiting for Steve.
I will be quick. I'm hoping it's not as complicated as it might appear.
Okay.
We've simplified it tremendously as much as possible.
All right, Steve's
All right, we're back here. Next
Thank
on our
you.
agenda, everybody back, we're hitting next on our agenda is IWWC 20-42. The applicant is Don LaPointe. The owner, Mr. Bates. It's 428 East Wakefield Boulevard, and we have a long list of repairs here, but repairing a lake wall, jet ski launch, remove lakefront stone patio, replace with lawn, repair lake steps leading to water, remove 2 steps of concrete stones, extend lower block retaining wall, add a shed.
Okay, should I start? Okay.
Don, before you begin, just one bookkeeping thing. Pam,
Yes.
is it possible to let the other applicants that are further down the list know we're not going to get to them now so they don't stick around, so to speak?
I think there was discussion. I think there's this application and the next application, and I think there's consensus to try to hammer through both of them.
Okay.
You have
And
2
what about
left.
the other 4 or 5?
No, the final one's being recanted. He doesn't have the information for it, so it's
Yeah,
just.
so there's
Okay.
2 more.
All right.
2 more you're gonna try to get through.
Good, I'm good.
Okay, so
Okay, thank you.
all right, so I will get started and I'll be as quick as possible. Good evening. My name is Robert Bates. My wife and I own 428 East Wakefield. I want to thank you guys. Only my second meeting that I sat through one 2 weeks ago, but I see what you guys do, and wow, I'm impressed and I appreciate it. And it's nice to see how much you care about the lake. We do too, which is why we want to do some of the work we're looking at. I'll give you a quick idea of it, and then Don LaPointe will provide more detail, and he'd probably be the one to answer most of your questions. The most important thing we need to do is fix our seawall. We have a natural stone seawall. We purchased the property back in 2013, and it was almost in need of repair then. Now it's definitely repair. As Don will explain, and I think he provided photos to Pam, stones are falling into the water. So the entire length of the seawall needs to be repaired. There is currently we're calling it a jet ski launch. I don't know how long it's been there. It was there when we bought it. It's made of wood and concrete. We would like to take that out. There is also an existing stone patio with some stairs going into the lake, into the lake. We want to remove that stone patio, not rebuild it, not replace it, just remove it. With regard to the stairs into the lake, we do want to have some stairs into the lake. Ideally, they'd be moved over just a little bit and widened a little bit, but this is certainly something we're willing to, do whatever is best according to you guys. There's also, I see the diagram is up. There are some concrete and stone steps that are leading from the lake up towards the house. I think Don's father built them, but I'll let you go into that. I'll let him go into that. With all due respect to Don's father, they're kind of uneven in height and they angle a little bit. So they're difficult in many respects. And we just want to replace them again with stone in the same spot. There are existing retaining walls. All we want to do is reface them. I think Don had something to do with those back in the day. And the integrity is fine. There's just some, I don't know the terminology, what kind of stones are placed in front of them to face them, but we just want to remove and replace those stones. Now, with respect to the retaining walls, I do have what I consider an erosion problem on both the north and south side of the property. And if you guys want me to, if it would help the elimination of silt or whatever it is, it's flowing down into the lake, I will extend those walls on each side. That's really up to you guys. If we don't extend the walls, I'll do what I can with regards to landscaping to prevent the rapid flow of the water on each side there down into the lake. And
Is that what Robert, was that what's occurring now when you say you think you have an erosion problem?
Yes, Don, I don't know if Don took pictures of them, but you can see the flow of the water. I'm sorry, it's late. You can see what's happened to the ground because of water flowing into the lake. I've tried to grow grass, but because of the angle facing westward, the sun just, I mean, you know what it's like there we get sun until sundown. And I can't grow anything there. I've tried. And that's it. The last thing is ideally I'd like to have a shed solely for the purpose of wakeboards and other similar water toys. I don't know if it would have to be as big as 12 by 16. I think my paddleboard. I think the paddleboard's only like 11 feet, but whatever is customary for around the lake, we're happy to comply with that. Just real quick, met Don because we love it up there. Just last fall, we bought the property at 430 East Wakefield. There was a condemned structure there. It was an eyesore. That's when I met Don. Don demolished it, and hoping that has helped improve the area a little bit. We have no intention on building anything up there. I do have the cooperation of the neighbors on each side, and Don knows them as well. And that's really that's the overview.
What am I looking at? What did I just see that has a stockpile of soil? Can we go back to that?
This is a blueprint that was drawn up by John DeCara.
Okay.
And it's just, I think Don can go into this with you, and his discussions, well, that circle is over the house that was raised. I'm guessing from what I've heard in conversations about other items on the agenda, that must have to do with whatever goes on in the course of construction. I forget the terminology you guys used, staging or Don can tell you what's going on with the soil.
Okay. Because I can just say right now, we're gonna have a topsoil pile that usually needs to have this erosion control around it. Would need to be noted on this.
Don, are you there? Don, you got to unmute. Pam, can you unmute him?
Not showing that it's muted, but I can't hear him.
He has to turn up the volume.
Yeah, maybe turn up the volume on your computer. We had done a test run before, so he's got the capability. Remember, yeah, no.
I'm sure he can hear us, right?
That's not your phone there, that 485 number, is it, Don? No. Because what I would suggest is that you call. Do you want to call? Yeah, let me tell you what number to call, Don. If you want to call in on your cell phone, this way you can see. So if you want to, this will be quick. And in the meantime, I'll share the numbers.
He's showing you a number.
That he's calling. Okay, so that is him. You might.
He held up the number for you.
Yeah, but see, when you do it, you gotta, because it's showing as muted, and I've asked you to unmute, and I think you might have to call back in with yeah, and then there's, I'm just guessing what you're saying, but there's a menu, and it'll say, yeah, I know. Oh, it's so annoying, isn't it?
He's saying, call me.
You can call back.
Call him. Boy.
Can he call you and you put him on speakerphone?
It'll have a lot of feedback.
Okay.
I mean, we can try it.
I forgot to mention Don's family used to live here. Oh, well, you probably got that idea.
Hi, Cam. Here we go.
Can you guys hear it, Don, if I do this?
No, I don't understand.
Can you hear him?
A little bit, but not really.
Closer, Mom. Closer.
Yeah, so, yeah, all right, let's give him a minute. He's gonna try to enter. How about in the meantime, if these photos that Don sent today, they just came today. So if you guys want to see the, they are on the website.
That is the stone patio that we're going to remove and not replace. We're just gonna have grass there. That's at the waterfront.
Okay, so that's that one. And then there's, where did I go? Oh my goodness. Lord. Oh, I must have messed up. Oh, there's not that easy.
There's the step.
Okay, the wooden structure you see there, it's actually got cement underneath it. That's a jet ski something or other that was there when we bought the property. We're just removing that and having grass and the seawall.
Hi, Don. Are you
Okay,
there?
can you hear me?
Yes, yep. All right, let's go
You
back
know
to
what?
the site.
You're supposed to hit *6 to unmute yourself on the phone. I didn't know.
Well, now you do.
Now I do. Well, you know what? Welcome to Zoom.
Okay, so you want to, can you see the screen? So you want to guide us through this site plan?
Yeah. Let me, can you slide it up a little bit? I can't move it,
Sure.
so I'll probably, if I move it, the thing will knock me off.
Yeah.
But anyways, as Rob indicated, yeah, this house used to belong to my parents back in the 70s. So some of the work that was done here is all the work of my my dad, who has passed away about 5-6 years ago. So anyways, the stairs that were done, if we want to talk about those first, they are not even at all. The treads are anywhere from, who knows, a foot to 4 feet. So they're very hard to walk up and down. The steps are anywhere from 6 to 9+ inches. So they're very not good. They're not safe, and take it from me, who's has trouble walking downstairs. But anyways, they need to be redone, and they'll be done in more in a unified, safe step and tread. They'll all be even. So that's one battle, but that's really not our foremost priority right now. The foremost priority is to do the seawall. The seawall is falling into the lake, is what pictures I sent to Pam earlier today. There's pieces of it that have fell into the lake. So our job is to excavate the rocks that are falling in and get them back up on the wall. We're not to go down to the lake bed at all. I think most of the rocks that are down on the bottom are good. It's probably the 2 to 3 feet from the top that are pretty much loose, not plumb at all. They're all half falling into the lake, or they're not even. They just need to be all straightened up and repointed with different rocks. And also the level of it, it goes up and down all over the place. Mainly on the south side of the wall, it's pretty much with the jet ski dock. It's pretty much of a mess, which there is a picture of the jet ski lift. So as Rob pointed out, the patio wants to come out completely. The stairs that are there now, we're just going to continue the wall through that and move the stairs over to the jet ski area to try to allow a little more area so they're not, walking in the water by the dock. That's much it. The other area that he wants to address is the area going back probably about 15 feet towards the house off the lake is very steep. I say steep. It's probably about 3.5 to 4 feet of pitch going down to the dock, which is kind of hard to walk a little bit. So what Rob wants to do is to excavate some of the earth by the wall about 10 feet back to make it more level. which is actually kind of, you can't really tell from that picture, but from that wall down towards the lake is pretty much, there's probably a 4-foot drop at least. What we want to do is kind of put another wall in there and just kind of keep it more flatter by the lake wall, so there's probably not, there's less runoff and less pitch going into the lake. That's one of the main objectives to do this project. But that's actually secondary to the wall. The wall's the foremost important thing right now to get that done before the water comes back up. The rest of the work can get done, weather permitting, whether we can do it in December or not, or we'll have to control the area with sediment erosion and do something to keep everything in place, whether it be hay bales and spread out hay, to get everything straightened out to get us through the winter. And also obviously keeping the silt fence. So as John pointed out, the silt fence is going in the lake below the wall during the construction of the wall to repair the wall, which is really mainly what we're doing, is repairing the wall. And then after the wall is completed, we will move that silt fence up to the top of the wall, which will be, preventing anything from going into the lake. That's the main objective right now. And then obviously work our way up towards the house, which obviously the stairs would probably be the last thing to get done. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them for you. So actually the staging area that Rob was talking about up top, where the property he bought up top on 430, that would be any material that we needed to stockpile. We would bring up top and leave it up top here in this area. And I thought he had put silt fence around it, but no, I mean, obviously we'll put silt fence around the pile if we have to store material up there. But that'd be the best place for us to store it during the construction. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to ask.
One thing I feel like I'd like to see is a little more for our next meeting is a little more detail of these upper walls. And the homeowner did mention that there was erosion occurring there, and maybe some more detail of exactly what was going to be done, or with the extension of the walls and potentially some other erosion control methods up there, not for the site of construction, erosion control, or once that wall is completed, or if they're being extended. It's hard for me to see what the scope of work is on the upper part there, on the upper walls.
Well, the most of the erosion is up top. It's not on the bottom. It's coming down between the Wilkes property and Rob Bates property, because of the driveway and everything that's coming down that area. That's where we're getting a lot of drainage from the water. Obviously, water runs downhill. There's nothing you can do about it other than try to maintain some kind of growth. We could put bigger stone or there to try to diffuse it a little bit, but the water is coming down the hill. I mean, as you can see from the topo, that everything is downhill. There is grass there now. It doesn't grow as thick as you would think it would on a nice lush lawn, but I think carrying it, to back up a minute, those two retaining walls that are there, they were there when I did those back in the 70s. Actually, early 80s, I think we did those. They were made out of 6x6s. And what somebody did prior to Rob Bates buying the property is somebody faced them with a decorative block. So what they did is they came in and they covered up the 6x6 timber walls with a block wall. So basically what Rob does, he doesn't like the look of the block. Obviously, he probably doesn't like the look of 6x6s, but those walls have been there for over 40 years. So I would say what he wants to do is maybe reface them with something with stone look. He's trying to make it look more unified with the lake wall, trying to make the appearance look better is what he wants. So as far as the erosion control goes, I mean, I know that the water's coming down there between Wilkes and Rob Bates's property, and it's been coming down there for, I bet you, better than 15, 20 years. That house already owned the house next door. That actually I did the site work for him. But we can do whatever we can to try to control it so we can diffuse it. Basically, what we have to do is diffuse it.
When I mentioned, if I can jump in, when I mentioned, doing a wall or something, we're willing to spend some money to help the lake. I mean, this isn't something I need over there because that part of the property is not really even used. But since we're down there doing something, if there's something we can do to help the lake, we will.
what as it stands right now, if I'm not mistaken, repairing the wall does not need a permit, correct?
Yes, it does.
No, it needs a permit.
What?
Repairing the wall is under maintenance, correct?
It
Yeah, but it
needs,
still needs a permit.
Yeah, I mean, you're in the permit process right now, so you might as well keep with it. But yeah, you do need a permit to repair. You know, if you were, how big of a repair? I guess my question is, what's the extent of the repair?
A lot of that, we won't know, I'm assuming we won't know a lot of it until the water's down and we can see what the wall is. But as Don mentioned, all the stones are sitting right there on the bottom.
You could see, there's a picture, Pam, did you see the picture of the one with the chunks of wall taken out? There's a picture of the wall that I took,
I can, yeah, it was tough to, not that one, hold on, if I can pull it up. Nah, I'm not gonna be able to pull it up.
Well, I think we're in agreement. We definitely, you're in the permit process already now, Don. I mean, we need the permit to move ahead with the, you know, with the seawall part of it.
Yeah, that's fine.
You know, as far as some other improvements with the potential for the drainage, it's a little bit hard for us to make a recommendation on that. I know you'd certainly be willing to do that, but it's hard to make a recommendation right now without seeing that, short of, you know, another engineering company or another looking at it and saying, how do we manage some of this runoff, whether we put it into a rain garden or divert it with a swale into somewhere where it trickles down more. You know, those are things that are traditionally done, but I don't know if they're within, you know, certainly not within the scope right at the moment for us to recommend what those are. You know what I mean? A lot of times we see them from like the engineers of you know, actual engineered water runoff plans. Like I said, that they're into a rain garden or a retention pond.
Well, that was something I'm offering to do to help out. I don't know if I want to go spend the money on an engineer.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying I can't make a recommendation for what those are.
Well, right now, we're not bothering anything with it. Everything that we're doing, everything is on the lake. It has nothing to do with the top part of this property. It has nothing to do with it. There is existing. We're not touching it. So the only thing we're replacing are the stairs going from the deck down to the water. Everything else stays the same. There's nothing else being changed on the top. Everything is being done by the waterfront.
But
So,
you're extending though the lower block retaining walls, correct? That's noted on your plans.
The wall that's existing now is going to go straight down because the way we designed the topo on here was to put a wall down along to get the shed on level ground. So where the shed is being proposed to, the 12 by 16 shed, which is under 200 square feet, is being proposed by the lakefront, and we got to make a level area for that to be on. That's basically the wall, one of the walls, the purpose of the wall. And the other thing is it's very steep coming down there. So by us continuing those walls, it does allow us to have a little bit areas so it's not so steep. It steps down a little bit. So you don't have all that steep slope going all at one time. So that's basically the main purpose of the walls.
Where
if
is
anything, that's erosion control.
I
And
don't-
be able to walk. Go ahead.
drawing?
What's that, Jackie? Could you repeat that? I couldn't hear you.
Drawing. Where is the shed?
Right
It's
here.
right here in the corner.
Oh, there, okay. I'm looking at the wrong piece.
And we do plan on all the appropriate landscaping.
Hey, Don,
Yeah. Yes, Steve.
just to be clear, you know, you keep saying you're only doing the lakefront wall, the lakefront wall, the lakefront wall. But if the application includes work on tiering the property and fixing the stairs, then Russ's point is that we need more detail. if you want to remove all of that language from the application and not do anything, just repair the lakefront wall and the stairs on the lakefront, then, you know, you're gonna have to put in another application down the road to do what you want to do, what the homeowner would like to do
With the walls.
with the
Yeah, well,
tiering
we-
and the pyramiding, because it's within the province of the commission, within the 100 feet of the water. So, you know,
I understand.
you know,
So
it behooves
if
you
you
to
want-
leave it in. It behooves you to leave it in and give us the right information than to spend the money and submitting another application, which becomes costly again. And the homeowner would have to bring you back into the picture or somebody else into the picture to complete it for us. So, you know.
I agree. Yeah, so right now, it makes sense to just come in, we're gonna reface the wall with stone versus what's there now. So it's not like we're taking the wall out and replacing it with, we're just gonna reface the front of that wall, so.
Are you talking about the light wall, or you're talking about refacing the retaining walls?
The retaining wall is staying right where it's at.
But, so all you're doing is refacing the retaining walls, and you're not doing any kind of excavation with the retaining walls?
No, the rest of the wall is gonna continue onward. It's just gonna go straight across the property, the way we have it highlighted there. It's just gonna continue.
So you're adding to the retaining walls?
Exactly.
So they're new retaining walls, extension, whatever you want to characterize them as, but there are new retaining walls that he's proposing.
Right. It's just an extend the retaining walls and also reface them with different materials, which, you know, Rob has sent some pictures to me that he'd like to do some stonework is what he'd like. He doesn't want to look at that block.
But I mean, you can reface, you can reface these walls without taking them out, like, so you've got timbers, then you've got block, and then you're gonna put more block?
No, the timbers are gonna stay there. The timbers are gonna stay there. The block will come out, that's in front of it, but we'll just reface the front of the timbers with new stone. That make sense?
Sort of. I mean, I think, like I said, we're getting at, you know, we need to see a plan with more exact detail of all of these. I mean, some of this stuff's easy, like removing the jet ski launch and removing the patio, but you know, the concrete steps and the retaining wall and the moving of that and the re-excavation around the shed, I think we're used to having a little bit more detail with that, which I'm hoping you can provide for our next, you know, our next meeting.
What do you want? You want a cross section?
Yeah, we want cross sections and just as much detail of that as you could get to us. So we get a really clear idea.
Probably a sequence plan.
Yeah, there's a sequence plan on the side of the plan. There's one right on the side of the drawing. It's all a sequence of events. John and I discussed that prior to him putting it down in the plan. So as far as the detail goes for the wall, yeah, I could bring you a detail for the wall, which is not a problem. To extend the wall is what we want to do. As far as the jet ski lift, that's already a picture there. I think, Pam, did you put up that picture of the jet ski lift?
Yeah, I was saying that's not an issue. I mean, I can see to take that out. And I don't need any, you know, any real detail on that.
Right. So I don't really see the detail you really need is just on the wall, exactly. To extend the retaining walls, correct?
Yes, as much detail for our next meeting as you can get us on what exactly and precisely you want to do with this, the better.
Okay, for the retaining walls okay, that's fine. I got it.
Can you, Pam, leave the picture up that's up now, the schematic, and the proposal improvements that are highlighted in red. Dawn and the homeowner, the first thing you're asking for is to repair existing lake wall and connect, as shown, a repaired wall to a different elevation. That you talked about. Replace and extend existing block wall with a stone wall. Where is that block wall?
That block wall is those are existing retaining walls on the property.
Okay, that's up there. So you're doing work up, you're doing more work than the lake wall. Go back to the picture.
Yep.
Then you're gonna construct a new retaining wall, and that's the extension that you're talking about?
Correct.
Okay. Can you go back again, Pam? Remove existing stone patio in the jet that we know about, construct new steps. Now, that's all in your proposal now.
Right.
And if you're not gonna do those things, then.
I didn't say we're going to do that. Steve, that's not what I said. I said we're focusing mainly right now, but we want to get the seawall done, obviously. The rest of the stuff is probably not going to get done between now and December 1st.
Well, the rest of the stuff is up from the wall, so whether you have a drawdown or not, you don't need a drawdown to do any of that work. It's
No, just
all on
that, right.
land. It's all on land.
Well, we want to do the
But
rest of
what
it.
Russ is saying to you is, we need more detail of what you want to do on the land. That's, I guess,
I got it.
the easiest way to say it.
Yeah, no, I got it. I understand what he's saying. So I will give him a detail for the walls that we propose to put on the land.
Yeah,
That's what
Don,
you
like I
want,
said, with these plans, the more we can see, the better off, we're moving ahead with an approval. Even if you don't think it's, maybe that important as you see it, the more you can add for it, the better off everybody is in terms of, understanding the scope of the work. I know it's a little more work on your end on the front of it, but that's what we've been requiring and trying to move ahead with everybody on.
Yeah, the walls are they're approximately 3 feet tall. They're not more than, I think they're 32 to 36 inches tall. So they're not, engineered walls. So they're just going to be more of a decorative wall holding up for 3 feet of water, 3 feet of dirt or less. So yeah, I'll put up some kind of cross section for a design for that wall, and we'll give you that for the next meeting.
Yeah, any measure, like I said, cross section, any exact measurements, lengths, more pictures would be beneficial.
Okay, no problem.
So if you're voting to accept this tonight, you have to find whether or not it's significant activity. I don't know if the commission's interested in visiting the site.
We would.
You're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
I have a concern. I'd like to see a buffer zone.
Say that again, Kurt.
A buffer zone?
The
Vegetation
riparian
buffer
buffer.
zone?
Yeah.
I didn't see that on the map, so that's the suggestion I have. I'm sure you can elaborate on it. It's a 2-foot buffer zone.
Yeah, Mr. Bates and Don, they've been requiring a vegetative buffer between the grassy lawn and the seawall.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to that to keep the geese off the property.
And that's something you could note in your next set of plans, the vegetative buffer.
I'm sorry, Mr. Davenport, can you repeat
Yes,
that?
is that something would you please note on the plan, on your next, as an overlay on your next plans of the vegetative buffer in front of the seawall?
Do you need to know like the specifics of the type of plan or just the idea of what's gonna go where? I mean,
No, I think we don't need the specifics of as long as there's a vegetative buffer, we don't need to know the exact specifics of the species of plant. Some people put that in, but we don't need to require it.
okay, if I may, other than the buffer that you referred to, is there anything else that's required?
Well,
No,
other than,
not. Oh, I'm sorry.
other than what we talked to Dawn about.
I'm sorry, with regards to plantings.
Okay.
I meant with landscaping, other than the
Okay.
buffer. Okay,
No.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
And
Well,
we'll be
I'd
up
like
in the week next
No,
week.
vote.
I'd like to make a motion to accept application IWWC 20-42, 428 East Wakefield Boulevard. I have
Finding it as significant activity or not significant?
that is not significant activity. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. And show of hands, all those who approve? Is that unanimous? I think so. Okay, thank you very much. We will see you at the next meeting.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Good night.
Good night.
All right. And we have application IWWC 20-43, George I can't pronounce
Makowitz.
Makakowitz at 332 East Wakefield Boulevard. They are removing and replacing a seawall and dock superstructure. And I think they're here to discuss this project with us some more.
Yes, I'd like to, first of all, thank the board for, seeing what you guys got, for a caseload right now and making, the effort to stay for all these extended hours. I just wanted to say thank you very much. I appreciate it. Can I share my screen at this point? Pam, or?
Yeah, well done.
Okay, it's all done. All right, 1 minute here. Let me hit the share here. And all right. Can everybody see that?
Not yet.
Okay.
Now we can.
Says your host participant share screen disabled here. 1 minute.
Hold on.
Can everybody see it?
No, we're viewing your screen.
Let me share here. Where is, why can't I share at this point?
All right. I'd given it to Mike too, so let me take Mike's away. How about now? Are you all set?
It says here I'm sharing my screen right now.
That you are, yeah. We're seeing your screen. It's your
Okay.
dock and a boat.
Okay. Okay, you just see the dock and the boat. Okay. So let me just explain a couple of things first. The goal of this project is to, repair and replace the wall that is on the property. What you can see from the pictures here is that the wall consists of basically two different types of stone. The property has 75 feet of frontage. The area over on this side where I'm circling the cursor was done about 25 years ago with literally a landscaping block, which was not obviously acceptable for water use and has deteriorated at the surface to the point where it's only like an 8-inch block. And at one point, it eroded into the area, and there was some fill tried to be put, fill of cement to kind of make sure that it doesn't go all the way through the block. But 2 years ago, Brian Dwyer looked at the wall and said, that really there was nothing he could do to the wall because of the fact that the water on the far end over here is 5 feet deep. On the other side of the stairs. And there, all these details will be shown in the engineered plan that I have. So our goal is to, bring the wall to more, more true to the lake in a sense that right now it is field stone for probably, let's call it 60%. The other 30% plus is that block that is, again, a landscaper block. This picture is just showing you a cross section here where all under this rock where the fieldstone is, it looks like rocks have been falling out of the bottom of the wall for many, many years. The rocks aren't there anymore, but it is literally undercut. And the wall has started to bulge, as you can see in a number of different areas. And specifically here, where I'm the cursor, the wall is literally falling. This is the landscape portion, and it's about 8 inches, recessed in this area because the wall is literally falling forward. There was no engineering done whatsoever behind this. Usually you have to design it with what they call a battered back, but none of that was done at the time. In talking about the dock itself, it's a wood dock that is on a pier, and the pier is obviously, you can see from here is in very, very good shape. The problem is that it was never built properly. This is a picture from underneath the dock, and again, this is a better picture to show the wall, coming forward, and you can also see the face of the stone there. But the dock was never built with an I-beam. These are literally railroad ties, railroad rails that are holding it up. The wall is, the end of the dock is not stable. In some cases, I don't want to use the word diving board, but there's a lot of play in the end of it, and all of the wood. We know that pressure treated wood these days does not stand up. They're not using the preservatives that they did, and it literally all of it would have to be replaced. But in this case, it needs to be re-engineered to be for the long term of the lake. So basically. Our plan here is right now is the dock is 8 by 29 feet. So it's 232 square feet. We're proposing with the redesign to go out an additional 4 feet to 33 feet. So it's 8 feet by 33 feet. So we're still less than the 320 allowed. The rebuild of this, of the dock, is important in a sense that, we're proposing a different kind of structure with aluminum so that, we don't have to, worry about preserving or painting the dock or any of that, those things in the future that, that wood docks, require. The wall, fieldstone, it'll be fieldstone all the way across the space, the full 75 feet. And again, the large, the large drawdown is the only time we can work on the wall, right now. So what I've done here is I pulled together what I consider to be, the best team, to make sure that we're doing things right. We have Brian Dwyer, who's also on the call right now, who's done a lot of work on the lake. And some of the references that I asked from him, he's done, many projects on the lake, including some, I believe, for even some of the people that are on the board. I've got Todd from Flashback, which is, he is the one who was working with my engineer, to replace that beam with a different beam. And then, Laurel Engineering has designed a plan, which we're going to go over in a few minutes. And we're also working with Highland Marina for, Shoremaster, so that the actual panels that would be on the top are the ones that are shown here. So basically, we just would have the beams underneath, and then we would be putting the normal panels, which have also been approved many times by the board in many of the other docks on the Highland Lake. So it's a proven product, and we're going to be using a plank on the top of the lake. We haven't actually picked out the color yet, but it'll be a planking that'll look like natural wood. So it will have the aluminum edges, but the product on top will look like a natural wood plank surface. So at this time, what I'd like to do is turn this over to my engineer, Mike Sherman, and Brian Dwyer, who is the one that would actually be reconstructing the wall. There are a number of stones on the bottom of the wall that probably will stay, and then he'll just be building the wall up, but obviously using weep holes, so that and doing proper stone and drainage behind the wall. So again, this structure of replacing the wall and the dock will in effect protect the lake going forward, because it'll be a structure that is designed properly and will last for many more years than what's already there. Mike, I don't know if you want to share the plan and go over the details.
Good evening. I'm Mike Sherman with Laurel Engineering. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. And George hired us to design his seawall and to design the beams that are going to hold up his dock. Pam, can I share my screen?
Yeah, say hi.
I gotta wait. I tried too soon.
Try it again.
There we go. Okay, on my screen now, I have a wetlands information table to make your job a little bit easier, to show you our impact in the wetlands and our impact in the regulated activity area. I also threw up the dock ordinance dimensions too in the other corner. Let me slide that over so you guys can see it. So what George was trying to say, that it's allowed to have 320 square feet for his dock. His existing dock was 235. The proposed one will be 264, a little bit bigger. His shoreline width is 75 feet, and the maximum dock length into the lake is allowed is 40. What he presently has is 29.4, and he asked us to give him a 40-foot long dock, and we couldn't do that without getting the diving board effect. We increased the beam size from 3.5 inches to 8 inches to try and give him a more stable platform out there. When we went to design these beams, that was a bit of a challenge. It's basically designing a bridge. And so we had to adjust the seawall to form a small abutment, and we call that a dock abutment. And that's in our details in the sheets below. Here's an elevation view of the dock abutment. Right here is where the dock will sit into the wall. We have the 8 inches for the beam, and that framing and decking for the aluminum deck was another 4 inches. So George will have one step down off the back of his wall into his dock, and he'll now have an even dock. And we have another elevation view showing the dock going out into the water. Here's the existing 4x4 pier. And so we will be sliding these beams over here on. When you do a bridge design and you have beams, you have to plan for thermal expansion and contraction of the beam. And so you have a fixed end and then you have a loose end. The loose end will be over on the pier. And we will have to make modifications to the existing pier by adding a keeper block to the top. It'll be basically a block of concrete in between the two beams. So if for some reason something hit the dock from the side, that would keep the beams on top of the pier and they wouldn't slide off. This cross section here is for the seawall at the abutment. The retaining wall that we put in is based on a gravity wall. And so we have a wide batter in the back that'll keep the soil pressure pushing down on the wall. And then we have the gravity of all the massive concrete and stone here that will keep it from sliding out into the lake. The existing wall right now had too thin of a section and it's turning over. And so I designed this wall to meet Brian Dwyer's concept of how he wanted to build his stone retaining wall. This is all to be mortared stone in the front. And what Brian could explain this to you best, and he actually has some pictures of how he did this before, but what he likes to do is he likes to make the stone masonry wall, and then we'll fill the core with concrete. And all we're asking Brian to do is keep to these dimensions, because we know that for a concrete retaining gravity wall, this will be stable and it will last George's lifetime, that's for sure. We won't be back doing this again. I also like to thank everybody for staying a little late to hearing us. Our goal for tonight is for you to accept the application, determine whether it's a significant activity, which I will help you in a moment by describing the limits of our disturbance. We're going up to the plan where my cursor is. I showed cut lines. This is what I anticipate we'll have to excavate in order to remove the existing wall and replace it. So you can see that we're going to have a little bit of a cut inside the lake. This is just for the toe of the wall, because when you excavate down, you want to keep a 2-foot space to allow the mason to have a little room to move. We show a temporary stockpile in the lake behind our silt fence and our erosion control that I pretty much was figuring out where that 8-foot drawdown would be, and we'll still be in dry land in this area here where my cursor is. And so this material, the only material we're going to stockpile here, and it's only temporary until we put it back in front of the wall, is the lake bed material itself. This right here is a rain garden that we gave to you in a previous application when George was rebuilding his house, and that's been approved. We plan on keeping that there. We're showing a vegetated buffer along the back of the wall once we refill and build it all. And that'll extend into the rain garden, and the vegetation will extend all through there and down through here. I'm anticipating this to be about 3 feet wide. And all the plantings in there will be plantings that are listed in the stormwater quality manual. Basically plantings that match plantings that go into a rain garden. We are showing a footing drain, which we showed with the previous application, exiting through the existing wall. We will keep that pipe there and still allow it to do that. And for drainage behind the wall, anytime you have a concrete core, you got to allow the water to get from one side of the wall to the other. So you see here, we have the normal lake water surface elevation shown here, which we measured out in the field. Pretty much the groundwater elevation, which I show right here, will be at the same elevation as the lake water behind the wall. And we're going to put in weep holes. These will be submerged, but through the siphon effect, we will keep that groundwater elevation at the lake water elevation and not put extra loads on the wall besides the soil. We've given you several cross sections through here. I'm going to have to slide this over. We want to rebuild the steps, and so I have a cross section of the steps to show that. If I can get it to hold there for a second. There we go. I have a little trouble with my screen here. The steps are going to be done in the same manner as the wall is, where it's going to be all stone masonry going up the steps with a concrete base underneath it. And I'd like Brian to discuss how he's going to build the wall, and he can give you the sequence of construction. If you're still here, Brian. I don't know if
we're still here.
Past his bedtime.
We're still here.
Okay, hi Brian.
How you doing, Mike?
Good.
I hope everybody's doing well out there, and thank you so much for staying up with us. Just to expand on Mike's points here, it won't be totally concrete. I mean, we're going to be lining this with 8-inch masonry blocks, cementitious masonry units that are rated for foundations and below grade applications. And we'll be using masonry cement type S as well as bagged concrete that'll be coming in at 5,000 PSI. And that, we'll be filling the core with rubble and concrete, and there will be rebar involved. That will probably have to be coated, right, Mike? I would imagine for rust purposes.
Anytime you use rebar in a marine environment, you should use epoxy coated.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So, and we noted that there's the landscape block wall on the northern side of the property, and we'd start our excavation there and do it in 15 or 20 foot sections. And replace that, take down the next part, replace that, after all the silt fences and all that, of course, and work it down like that.
Oh, I did want to mention dewatering.
Yep.
Because this, the foundation we show, the wall is only 30 inches below. If we go over to my cross section here, with the 8-foot drawdown, I believe the water level will be below your excavation and we won't need it. But if we do need it, we will just follow all the guidelines in the sediment erosion control basin with pump inlet and outlet protection for it. And the outlet protection consists of a 55-gallon drum with holes in it. You put the pump into that, and then you surround it with 1-inch crushed stone, which will dissipate the velocity of the water coming out of the basin. The barrel will just have holes punched in the side of it. And then you allow that to run over the grassy area, and that'll give you water that it has no turbidity in it.
That's something, Michael, that we could, on our next set of plans, you could have pictures of what that is. We had that on another one, and then it's clear to us what the dewatering is going to entail and clear to the contractor of what is required. Would you be able to provide that?
I can provide you with a sediment and erosion control plan and give you details of the silt fence barrier, and we'll have a sequence of construction in there too.
What about the dewatering? I guess I was more referring exactly to the exact specifications of your dewatering, to have that on a set of plans.
Okay.
That's fairly standard, right? It's somewhat boilerplate.
Not a problem. I can get that into you within a week.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I'd
have
like
it
to see
filtered.
just so then everybody's clear as what the requirements are of that.
I'll tell you one thing that Dave Batista mentioned that works really good. I've had a lot of experience with it on bridge replacement jobs we've been doing. It's a thing called the dirt bag. And it's just a big bag that you put your dewatering pump into, and that catches all the sediment. It's kind of like a silt fence.
Yeah, if you wanted to use that method and have that, just have something spec'd out on the next set of plans. With whatever system you decide to use, just so we have it, so Brian has it as a spec.
No problem.
Here, Lonza, do the commissioners have any other questions of stuff that they want to see on this plan, or if we move to approve this, or I'm sorry, accept this? Are there some other details that other people would want to see?
Mike, can you talk a little bit about the construction sequence?
Yes, I can go back to my picture here if my screen is shared again. There we go. We'll have to enter the site from the existing paved area here, which there is to be a construction entrance built. That was part of our previous application. And that was to go right on this left side. The equipment will have to enter the property through this area. The first thing we do is we wait for the drawdown to get to its lowest level. And then we start the excavation and the removal of the existing wall. The machines will work from the land side out to keep the machines out of the lake bed. We'll excavate the whole wall, stockpile all the material that we're going to keep, remove any material that we're not going to keep from the site. Build the wall. Brian can tell you how long he thinks that's going to take him. You can pipe in, Brian, if you hear me.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, it's gonna be, you know, a good month and a half.
I was thinking it would be 6 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
And then once we backfill the wall and stabilize everything here, then we'll have to go into putting in the dock. Before the dock can go in, we have to have this portion of the wall, the abutment portion, all finished up. And we'll have to have the keeper blocks on the pier constructed. And then we'll bring in the dock down through here, and I think we'll have to end up sliding it out over the lake. The dock's gonna be pretty heavy, and we really don't want to have a crane set up down here to put it out there. 'Cause those 8-inch beams are 30 pounds per linear foot, and at 33 feet long, that's a lot of weight. Tell you how much it is. Yeah, it'll be close to 2,000 pounds. So you wouldn't be able to get an excavator to swing it out there, but you could get an excavator to roll it out. We can put rollers on the bank and roll it out and possibly just lift up the other end and pop it on top of the pier and then roll it out the remaining way. That's going to be one of the biggest challenges of this job, is getting the dock out there.
Is there any request, because I don't see anything I don't see a narrative, but, and the application doesn't include anything for boat lifts or anything like that. So.
No. And we didn't call out the littoral boundaries on this, but they're just straight down through these property lines on the end. You can see the neighbors definitely within his littoral boundary. He might even be over the property line at the end of his dock. But this dock, replacing it where it is, doesn't infringe on the littoral boundaries at all.
And there's no attempt at this point to request a boat lift or anything of that sort?
No, I'd asked George, and he's not interested with that at this point.
No, we're not looking for any kind of a boat lift, even though, like you say, the activities on the lake have, with the wave boats are, creating more. I mean, right now we're not requesting that at all.
Just from my perspective, could you include the littoral boundary distance from each property edge to each side of the dock? Because if that's included now, and the gentleman in the future would like to request a boat lift, then he knows, or the owner knows, that the boat lift has some place to go and not be in violation. That's why I'm asking for it.
Sure. I'll revise the plans to show that.
I mean, it's not a big deal. It's just a matter of scaling it out and just giving us two numbers, one on either side of the dock to the littoral boundary. And that'll eliminate any questions down the road as to where the dock is being positioned.
I think we had these on here because of John DeCara's original map. I think he showed those. And I think I might have accidentally turned the layer off.
So Mike, I got questions. This application is, you're not modifying, you had an application before the commission in, just 19, for the demolition of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Are you only, is this site plan, it doesn't include some of the things that you had for the demolition and the reconstruction?
We showed what the proposed stuff was in here. We still left it on. I screened out the house and just wrote permitted renovation of 3-bedroom house to kind of remind you that you guys have seen this before.
But like the gabion wall, that's still there. The roof leaders are still discharging into that rain garden. Like the only thing you're talking about here is the dock superstructure, right? So the other, we're
not looking for permitting anything beyond this cut line right here and that temporary stockpile.
What's that? Say that again. I'm sorry.
We're not looking for approval of anything beyond this cut line
Okay.
and the temporary stockpile. That's what we're asking for.
So that 2019 approved site plan remains in effect as far as the wetlands is concerned.
It is, and George is complying to that at the
Yep,
moment.
Yep, just making
Right.
sure, because, you know, there's been some.
Pam, is it customary to stockpile on the lake bed the way they're suggesting?
Well, it is lake bed material. That's why I didn't think too much about it.
No, I just,
But-
you know,
It may not be customary to call it out, but I bet you, if you ask Brian, I bet you that's what they do.
No
I don't see how
comment.
they have much of any other choice. It's got to go right back in the front of the wall.
okay.
So, you know, temporary is, you know, as fast as the mason works. You know, right?
Right. Well, it could be 6 weeks.
Well, like I said, I'm gonna be doing this in sections anyway, so we'll be backfilling as we go type deal, you know, working from north to south along the plan.
And then just because it's late and, you know, that dock, just, you know, what was shown by Sharmaster, that was just an example. I mean, there's no curves or bends to the dock structure, right?
No, there are not.
What I don't understand, Mike, is if it's a prefab dock from Shoremaster, why the I-beam and all of the construction?
We're just avoiding putting the legs down into the lake. It gets quite deep towards the end.
I got it.
So those legs would have to be quite long.
So it's not a cantilever dock. It's a sort of like a hybrid.
Yeah, right.
It's definitely a hybrid, yeah, because it is cantilever past the last pier.
Yeah. But the I-beams are not, you know, cemented into the ground, for lack of a better way of describing it.
No, they'll be bolted to the
wall,
the abutment portion of the seawall. They'll be allowed to slide. They'll be in like channels on the concrete pier and allowed to slide back and forth as they change size with temperature.
So this is going to be a Shoremaster dock without legs.
Yes. I guess you could say it's handicap accessible then, right? No legs?
From the water.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That said, do we have any additional questions from our commissioners? No, I think we're pretty good. And we're in agreement, or I'd like to discuss, you know, the significant activity portion of this before we speak about it, you know, accepting the application. A lot of blank faces here. Are we in agreement that it's not significant activity, that we would require a public hearing? Okay. Well, then, that's that. What's that?
I said, I love you folks after 11.
Yeah. Well, that said, I'd like to make a motion to accept application IWWC 20-44 as not a significant activity. And
second.
I have a second and a show of hands.
Is this when we add a bond or no?
Not yet.
No.
Not
okay.
yet, not approving the second.
Okay.
All right, there you
All
go.
those in favor? All of those, all those in favor?
Unanimous.
Got it.
Unanimous.
Okay. Very good.
Good
No
night,
problem.
Mike.
All right, thank you very much. We'll see you next month.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you, everybody, for staying up late for us.
Yeah, so this last application is Brian's and you're not prepared, so they're just gonna continue it to October 21st?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We need to make a motion for that, or is that?
Yeah, just
okay.
do that, yeah.
I'd make a motion to, for application 20-44 44 to continue that to our next October, is that
21st.
21st meeting?
Yep.
Second.
Do I have a second? Christine?
Yeah.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
That's good. Okay.
That's it.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. That said, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Second that. All those in favor, here we go. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.